We'll be talking about Morning Joe today. Don't worry. Is the apocalypse happening? Resistance libs cave to Trump instantly. Another call. Amsterdam mayor regrets calling hooligan actions a pogrom. Thoughts on Arcane? It's fucking fantastic. I'm so heavily anti-League, as you guys know. I think League of Legends is degenerate. I think no one should play it. I think it should be illegal. MOBA games in general. But honestly, Arcane, I finished season 1 and started watching the first episode of season 2 because it just came out. And oh my God, dude. I mean, it's just so incredible. You know, it's just so good. Arcane is just neoliberalism. Shout out China for making it. Yeah. I am anti-League but pro Arcane now, so I'm in like a weird predicament. It's directly against my values, you know. You were so funny on Fear End. Oh, it just came out. The new Fear End came out, and there was a lot of predictions we made on there, and I feel like, you know, we got a lot of stuff right on that Fear End that we shot on Wednesday night. Please fix the camera shake. This is literally the most fixed camera shake. Every now and then it'll shake a little bit because the desk shakes, but sorry, but the yellow is a bit intense. Yeah, I know. I know that the yellow is a bit intense. I haven't really figured out the perfect lighting, chat, and I will eventually. Okay. I think this is a little bit better, maybe. It just gets like really dark. It's gorgeous, but the camera shake is prevalent. It's just a bit dark. We haven't been able to figure out it. I haven't been able to figure it out yet, but I'll get to it. Like your shirt, is it new? No, it's not. But yeah. How do you reconcile liking Arcane and it being French? I don't have an issue. Is that apocalypse happening? Resistance lives cave to Trump instantly. Amsterdam mayor regrets calling hooligan actions a pogrom. Trump's agenda is scary and will ruin this country. Do you still hate Jinx? No, she's kind of cool. I mean, she's a great villain, but yeah. Am I missing anything? Oh, the Ukrainian attackums. Matt XIV responded to your reaction on Insta. Shout out to Hassan Piker for watching the exact part of my podcast where I thirst over him live on Twitch. Yeah, I mean, come on, you knew it was gonna happen. Let's be real. But yeah, okay. Is that apocalypse happening? Resistance lips cave to Trump and the Amsterdam mayor. Gaming today? Yeah, I might play that Korean dating game. Korean dating sim later. Yeah, gooner alert. Freaking goon alert, dude. It's time for the goon. But yeah, I mean, look, the thing is, like, I accidentally downloaded it. As you guys know, my hands are clean, right? My hands are clean. Like last night when I was doing the streamer awards voting, which by the way, you should vote for me for Just Chatting Streamer of the Year. When I was doing the streamer awards voting, I accidentally, like, I was trying to block this game that I saw Mr. Arthur playing, and it was like this Korean dating sim, right? And sometimes crazy shit happens where I think, like, I'm not entirely certain how this occurred, but I guess like Steam has this thing where you block a video game that you're trying to avoid playing, and then like it automatically downloads it for you. And it just like takes, if it's $20, it takes $20 out of your PayPal account. And then automatically, like, I just don't know how it happened, but like, I think it's fair. It's fair and balanced for us. Yeah, here. I mean, it's you can tell. Yeah, I changed the lighting from this from yesterday, and I feel like the lighting was a little bit. I think it's a little bit better now. The lighting. Anyway, so like you can kind of see, like right here where history will absolve me on this, like. I was like trying to avoid it, right? Like I was trying to make sure that I don't play this game. But like now that I have purchased it, I guess against my best wishes, like it would only make sense to play the Korean dating game, right? Just for a little bit, just to get a taste of it. And, just to understand like what we are truly trying to avoid. Like I'm going to be playing it while doing this the entire time. Like, oh, I disapprove. Just making sure, So it's just like strictly it's basically like journalism, What is the name of the game? 5 Hearts Under One Roof? Is that what it's called? Okay, hold on. It's irrelevant to the, what is it called? 5 Hearts Under One Roof? $20? That's crazy. Fuck. Okay, adding the cart. I don't know why I was like sounding it out like that, you know? I just don't know what happened. Like, why was I sounding it out that way? It's weird. Anyway, we'll just, I guess we'll see what happens. We'll see what happens. Like, anyway, this is the blast off. Let the people know, baby. We are live. We are alive. Is apocalypse happening? Resistance lips cave to Trump instantly. Amsterdam mayor regrets calling hooligan actions a pogrom. Trump agenda is scary and will ruin this country. Korean dating sim later. Yeah, I was typing it to avoid it. Like, I wasn't trying to add to cart. I was like, oh, I don't want to add to cart is basically what I was saying, you know? But yeah, so we'll see. This you 5 years ago. What is this?
这是暗淡人生里的星，是叫醒屈服灵魂的解药。
Is that awaken? Wait, what? Why can't my husband quit smoking? Is this a cigarette I smoke? This is not a smoke. This is a spark in a bleak life. This is an antidote to awaken the yielding soul. This is the turbid air that sighs unwillingly. It's the ashes of childhood dreams. It's a trivial sunset in life. It's the dawn of recovery after the collapse. Damn, that's poetic. Electrochemistry going off. Yeah. What? Sanctions against Israeli? Oh, here we go. Biden administration is going to sanction and then unsanction like 8 Israeli people in the West Bank. We're back. We're so back. Oh, man, he's really doing it. Oh, the mad lad. He's really restricting Israel. He's going, sir, don't you do it. What is this? Is currently hitting the fan in Tel Aviv. Reports of a direct impact of a mall in the east of Tel Aviv as a result of rockets launched from Lebanon. Holy moly. I didn't realize that was going on. That seems pretty crazy. And this is from Ali Hashem too. It's not like this is a real journalist. One of those like weird OSIN accounts. It's a distraction from Ben Gvir and the Israeli Attorney General trying to get each other fired. Yeah. So we'll talk about all of the new Trump announcements, including but not limited to using the military to using the military to basically do mass deportations and stuff. You know, real cool shit. Real awful shit in general. So we'll see. We'll see where this goes. But dark days ahead, as always. And let's get started. First, let's do some fun. Like I was saying, what is this? That's our stream.
You will feel a cold sting in your kidney one day, and it'll be me driving a toothbrush into it. You will feel a cold sting in your kidney one day, and it'll be me driving.
Only 20K you fell off. I know, it's all over. Yeah, this week's Fear and podcast was shot on Wednesday and also shot with just me and Will as opposed to the usual cast, but I think it was really fun. It was basically Fear and Malding, you know. We're back in like 2018. It was a rare Fear and Malding episode, OG episode. And you know, I did some leaks in here that were pretty fun and pretty cool. So, what is this? Hezbollah defeated, new defense minister says, as rockets bombard north. Oh my God. Bad empanada video about you. Guys, come on, please. Like it's we don't have to go and dive into drama every day, okay? Like I know it's humorous. I saw the video. Like, we don't have to literally do this every day, okay? It's a troll video. I know. It's just, once again, we do not have to do this every fucking day, okay? Please. I know Ethan made a video on Ludwig, and it's also insane. I know all of it. I know all the things that are going on. It's just, I feel like this is a disservice to many of the normal folk that tune in every single day and want to hear what is going on in the world, right? And I feel like I'm doing them a disservice by not covering the news and diving into, you know, just silly fucking drama shit. If I'm gonna dive into silly shit, I'd rather dive into silly shit like this. You know what I mean? Dr. Mike obliterates Miskiff.
What's going on right now is there's a 3-minute ad break on Canute's channel, so we should probably wait for the content, you know?
Oh, you're a big influencer, huh, big dog?
I can't talk right
That's a lot of people.
I can't think of any witty jokes to say right now.
You're doing great. We need you to do one more set. I want 8 good repetitions, and I'm going to count.
So making it harder?
Yeah, we want to make it harder. We're making everything hard. That's why we're here. Up.
If you can't get it. It's like,
Yeah. Again, this can be the last support. Try. Slow. Toes,
better,
heels.
better, better,
Heels,
better,
you're
better.
stronger. Good. Now don't go anywhere. Come with me. Last bonus round. Face the camera. Come over here. Quickly. This is a matter of time. You're going to do something fun with me. Get up. Take your stance just like this. Come closer.
25
Come
get
this way. You're good. Come on, get all the gifts. Go. This way. Good.
Miskiff's legs are like alarmingly weak. His upper body is pretty crazy. His upper body is actually shockingly strong. His bench press is better than mine. Okay. He can outlift me on the bench press. And yet his legs are incredibly weak, like shockingly.
Your hands up like this. Squat down with me. All the way down for a full sit. Sit there. Come up. Down again. Follow me. Down again. Good. Go down slower. It doesn't count. We need 3 more. That's it. Just 3. Come on. You're good to go. Let's go. Go. Slowly. Weight. Up. That's 1. Let's do 2 more. Down right away. Slow. Up. And 1 more. Last one. Go.
What's your bench 1 rep max? Today when I was doing bench press, I actually went up to 255 just to feel it. And back in the day, I could do it for like 6 at my peak. 255 for like 6. Actually 265 for 6. But that was, that is no longer something that I can achieve. And even when I was doing 255, like I had a hard time, but I just wanted to have, experience spending time under that weight with the proper form and focus on the eccentrics a little bit, specifically because like when I inevitably go back to bulking a little bit and putting on more muscle mass, I will, when I put on more muscle mass, I'll be able to go up higher on my bench press. I'll be able to hit higher weights. So yeah.
Slow. Jerry, hold him down. Push up hard.
How does it feel not to be at your peak? How do you feel? It doesn't matter because like it's different strokes for different folks. For me, I care about the aesthetics and I care about my cardio. And on both fronts, I'm pretty good. I care about basketball. I care about looking good, and I care about feeling good, and I care about having decent cardio. And the fact that I can, at the age of 33, run a fucking full sprint, coast to coast, nonstop, full basketball game is, pretty solid. And I'm good. Like I'm happy. It's just different. Like you can't max out on everything. Okay, this is something that a lot of people don't realize. You can't really max out on every single thing, right? Like you have to set certain goals that are reasonable and try to achieve those goals. You have to tackle those goals. And not every single thing, like you're not going to be able to improve your bench press and your squats at the same time, right? Like you're not, or unless you're bulking, in which case you might be able to. But if you're main gaining, for example, you're not going to be able to hit everything. You're not going to be able to also do cardio while simultaneously lose weight and lose fat and also gain muscle at the same time. So unless you get some medical help, medical intervention is the way to go in that circumstance. So for me, being a natty baddie, I have some limitations. A natty baddie at the age of 33, I obviously have some severe restrictions on what I can do and what I can't do. And I think within the confines of those natural restrictions, I'm pretty happy with where I've gotten. Yeah, or you're a beginner. Exactly. That's another thing. You can get a lot of gains when you're beginning to work out. But there's also different advantages. There's also different advantages to being like an experienced lifter as well. Like you can, pick it back up. You have the muscle memory. Recomp is a real thing, Beginner gains are great, but recomp is also fantastic if you've been dormant for some time. But I guess he killed Miskiff.
I have an influencer in my hands. Finally. Never let him go. If you start peeing red, we were never here.
Chad, I think Mike's, he's a great guy and all, but I don't know if we should hang out again after this. You know what I'm saying? Like,
Why are you guys saying he was being really serious? It doesn't seem like
and
it.
I mean this in the most inclusive 2024 way, but pain in the legs after leg workout is one of the most distinct signs of impending homosexuality that like any doctor or scientist has ever come up with. So the good news is you're going to make a lot of friends really soon at various clubs.
yeah, I mean, I was walking like this last night anyway. So.
Dr. Mike is also the gayest straight man alive. It's really funny because he's so incredibly gay, even though he's not, as a straight man. And he is like living proof that the more you work out, the gayer you get, which I will be talking to him about as well. But yeah, let's get started. Before we get to some serious news, let's get started with a brief update on the adpocalypse, the impending doom on twitch.tv. If you've been following for the past couple of months, there has been a bunch of communities that have been actively trying to get some news coverage and some momentum surrounding this platform that we're on being really anti-Semitic. Ironically enough, they're on YouTube and on Kick for the most part, which are, you know, objectively more openly anti-Semitic platforms. Like, I don't think the platforms themselves are anti-Semitic, but they host a shit ton more openly overt anti-Semitic content creators. Oh shit, here we go again. I mean, it's not oh shit, here we go again. I'm just like going to briefly go through it and explain some stuff. There's been a deliberate effort to basically go to every. There is a deliberate effort to go to basically every single advertiser that advertises on Twitch and tell them like, oh, this platform is anti-Semitic. Look at these articles that were written about how anti-Semitic this platform is. Please, you know, reconsider advertising on this platform. They've been doing this for quite a while, to limited success. And this is also alongside the initiatives to go to ADL directly to try to get the ADL to add new restrictions on what you can and can't say on this platform, including but not limited to content classification labels that were implemented. I use them right now. That's why it says sensitive content when I talk. And also the new additional qualifications for hate speech, including but not limited to saying Zionist. Now, you can still talk about Zionism in the new restrictions, but you can't say Zionist insert animal, for example. Like, that's something you cannot say. Okay. Now it's a clear-cut caving into capitulation to outside organizations, but it is what it is. I'd love for you to talk to Pirate Software about this. He's been getting fooled by Lacey misgive clips. Yeah. So what's interesting about it is that there were some content creators, including but not limited to the Stock Guy and Lacey and many other people like FaZe Lacey, FaZe Ronaldo, Stock Guy, and numerous other content creators who had said that they were noticing like a severe revenue loss, right? I think Moon had said something about it as well. And some of these guys were basically memeing, like they were just meta chasing, which is what happens. And then there was also very real instances of people losing all of their advertising revenue, like Kaysan, who's also another FaZe member. Kaysan is Iranian. I had a conversation with him directly, if you remember, and he had Iranian as a tag. He had Iranian as a tag on his Twitch profile for the longest time because he's Iranian and he wants Iranian people to come and watch him. And basically they had just, Iran as a tag, sorry. Basically, Twitch just removed all of their advertising revenue and didn't serve any ads on his page, specifically because it had Iran as a tag. Same with Venezuela, which I think is really, it's really fucked up overall. But the point is, all of this is happening because Twitch is caving to outside pressure coming from, these organizations like the ADL and hoping that like advertisers don't just like run away from the platform, because these guys are pretty aggressively pursuing that. And everything is coming from like an incredibly cynical place. Obviously, these are like kick streamers that are conducting this mass brigading campaign. ironically enough, and as I say this as someone who is quote unquote woke, right? Who has been on every platform from Facebook to YouTube to Instagram to TikTok to Twitch, that Twitch, of course, has the most restrictive terms of service out of all of these other websites. They do a fantastic job with that, which is why it's ironic that these other platforms where there's no real rigorous application of terms of service can turn around and be like, these guys are actually the real anti-Semites. I promise. Don't look at us. Look at them and pull your ads. So it's a weird, it's a weird situation overall. But I think a lot of people were a little confused. And originally, the stock guy had said that he had seen a severe loss of revenue and he didn't understand what was going on. But it turns out the severe loss of revenue came from the fact that he had an election tag from his stream because he was covering the election.
I went to my tags, and my tags were, my normal tags. But I had a tag that said election because I had covered the market's reaction to the election, not politics. Not personal politics, not policy, just the market's reaction. And so Friday before stream, I decided to take that tag off. I took off veteran as well, just in case. And guess what? It came back.
Yeah.
So there's not a fucking adpocalypse. I never said there was an adpocalypse. I said that I'm being affected by other people's shit. And so what did I do? I took off the election tag, and guess what happened? My money came back. So sorry, drama frogs who are like, this is an adpocalypse. No, it's not. No, it's not. It is a advertising thing that is happening with a specific subset on the platform, and I took it off, and guess what? I'm back.
So, are there any real reports of people with the LGBTQ tags losing ads as well? I haven't seen that. But Iran Persian tags also lower the revenue. If you remember, Saeed from No Pixel RP had his ad revenue lower from 3K a month to 1K. Then he removed them today. Tomorrow his revenue should be better. There's an example if you want to use. Yeah, it's basically people just like trying to navigate this space to the best of their ability when I don't know how the fuck to explain this basically, but yeah, anything that is like even remotely political, remotely considered political is now automatically, it seems, qualifying you as like a political content creator. And if you are in that political content creator category, it seems like they still haven't, because it's a new category, they automatically don't have ads on that category. They will eventually have ads on that category as well. But because it's a new category, they haven't started serving ads to that category. But right now, as it stands, there's no ads if you are doing political commentary. Now, of course, it doesn't, this doesn't bother me at all because knowing that this was always an inevitable possibility, I have always worked on ensuring that I have that my primary revenue source is subscribers, you guys. I don't work with advertisers that I don't feel like I want to work with. I don't work with advertisers usually anyway. And this is, a part of that. So I'm a firm believer that the political tag should not be monetized by ads because this channel could be ad free. Yeah. Overall, I think it's really, it's really frustrating in general, but this is part of the reason why for years and years I have maintained the position that it's like a much better way to have editorial control and have more freedom with what you can and can't say if you are to work with a base of subscribers rather than rely on, running ads. Thank you, Majority Report, for the raid. Hope you had a good stream. It's very frustrating, though, for smaller content creators who are up and coming, who are in this space, who want to, generate income for themselves or have been relying on the income for themselves. I think it's like it's really messed up that those guys end up getting fucked over by this process. As is the case with everything else, like this only harms smaller content creators, but of course, seemingly no one gives a shit about them. And it's very, very, very frustrating. But overall, advertisers don't really look at anything super seriously. They don't want any sort of motion. Like they're not going to assess the situation and be like, is this cynical or is this serious? They're not going to do that, right? This doesn't mean there isn't a concerted brigade effort cynically mass spamming emails to advertisers urging them to pull ads. There very clearly is one. Ironically enough, it's being led by Kick streamers who happen to have a contract with Kick. Very interesting predicament. So that is the case here. That's what's going on here. But yeah. So far, there hasn't been any real evidence as to this being like a mass adpocalypse. But I mean, look, I know how advertisers work, right? I'm familiar with how advertisers work. I worked in advertising. I know that when they hear any sort of drama or any sort of controversy, they're going to be like, oh, I don't want my fucking brand associated with that. I don't even give a shit what it is, right? Nobody, until it's like Black Lives Matter protests happening all around the nation, you're never going to see a marketing campaign that, you know, puts politics in the forefront. Okay. So for that reason, I think the CCL designation isn't necessarily bad. Like the new content classification label for politics is not bad, because I think it partitions off political commentary in a separate space on this platform. I think it's bad in the interim period, and it's bad because, like, of course, when they apply something like this, randomly people catch strays like Kason and like some others. But overall, making sure that this kind of content still exists, as long as it does not violate clear-cut, hate speech boundaries, this kind of content existing in a separate category that is sheltered from the rest of the advertising that's running on the platform is a good thing. Okay? It's not necessarily a bad thing at all, because I don't want content creators on this platform to like lose out on revenue opportunities for themselves, right? I don't. I want them to keep making money and make a career out of this sort of thing. And I think it's ridiculous that like there are people who are championing this cause. So yeah, Trump has declared said he's going to do a national emergency. Is there anything Twitch can do vis-a-vis people representing Kick, like a co-founder or contracted talent on their platform, regarding Twitch advertisers in this way? I think Twitch just needs to do PR, right? They need to do more PR to combat this like ridiculous narrative. But I don't know, I don't know what they're doing overall. Is the apocalypse both a subsequent issue because of Islamophobia and anti-Semitism? No, Islamophobia is not a reason for the apocalypse. I don't think it's a reason for the apocalypse. If anything, Asmongold being banned primed his audience to maybe take action and join the cause and join other communities that were already brigading. But there is no real, like, as far as I know, as far as I understand so far, there is no real apocalypse. Okay. A lot of the content creators that said that they reported massive loss of revenue have either openly admitted that they were farming, joking, or whatever the fuck. There was a clip from specifically Max FaZe, Blackboy Max, who was talking about how like Lacey and Ron are just clip farming, and they shouldn't do that because like there's, people like Kason who are legitimately experiencing like a loss of revenue because they're catching strays. Here it is. Yeah.
Literally got demonetized because of who he is. So did X. Now, Twitch, fix that. 2, the reason I said I love Lacey, because I don't want to start no problems. And it's not that big of a deal to start problems, and when this rage bait type shit happens, it causes people to take Kason's situation less serious. When it's actually something serious. He didn't get money for no reason. So please be aware of that, okay? Ron, I don't know Ron shit, but he's rage baiting, okay? This is not serious. Ron rage baited too. That's also not serious. Please don't take these niggas serious. And it kind of make it belittle Kason's situation, or if X go through it when it is serious, they didn't get paid. Like Kason dead ass is going through that. So yes, please, Twitch. Kason
yeah. I wasn't clip farming. Twitch had the political tag on a stream because he was watching the election. Oh, okay. Anyway, did you see Ludwig's video about this? I thought it was more serious than it is after watching his video. Yeah, I didn't watch Ludwig's video on this at all, but I also know more than he does on this issue. I'm on the platform. I talk to other content creators on the platform, and I'm also very Like I am probably the, other than like Destiny and Dan Saltman, the people who have conducted this campaign, and maybe to a certain degree Ethan Klein, I am probably the most knowledgeable party on what is actually happening. So yeah, no, I don't see any reason to watch Ludwig's video where it very clearly is like uninformed. Especially considering that he himself was duped by a Misgive clip farm that he I guess deleted as well from his YouTube video, as I learned about yesterday morning. So you know, no disrespect, I love Ludwig is the GOAT, and I find it very funny that people find it in their heart to hate on a guy when he is basically a golden retriever. Straightforwardly, he is one of the most mathematically likable people on the planet. So whenever people get mad at him, I'm like, that's insane. Like, you have to be so far off base to just be like hating on this fucking guy. Like, he's a dork. He's funny, and he is a well-natured person. It is wild to get mad at him. It just feels weird. So that's neither here nor there, but I think it says a lot about people. I also work in advertising with accounts that spend millions a month. You're right that execs won't do any due diligence and touch platforms that have any sort of controversy. Exactly. But I think the platform taking actions to just say like, no, this kind of content exists on the platform, but in a totally separate vacuum, is an appropriate thing to do, because then they can go back to advertising and be like, yeah, this kind of stuff is whatever. It's neither here nor there. Here's our terms of service. We don't allow any sort of like extremist sentiment. And also, even then, when we have different content classification labels, there's like international standards for this sort of stuff, some of which is very strict and is like straightforwardly anti-free speech. And I think for them, they're just doing their very best to work through this process. This is the same conversation that happened with smut streamers. Yeah. Except that didn't really, they didn't take it to that level with the difference between what's going on right now versus like hot tub streamers is that there wasn't one group of people that were like clipping, you know, Amaranth streamer or whatever and sending it to every advertiser to be like, Doritos, your ads are running against these, these hot tub streamers. Do you feel like it's appropriate? You know, do you feel like it's appropriate to, and then lie basically too? Like in this circumstance, they would have to lie as well and claim that they're doing nudity or whatever, and not just like in a hot tub. If they were to do that, then I'm sure there would have been a similar level of motion to that as well. Yeah. And Congress people were not, you know, writing with the congressional letterhead, letters to Twitch talking about, and Amazon talking about like, Amaranth's hot tub streams must be put to an end or whatever. Are you thinking of taking a break from Twitch? All this controversy must be exhausting, especially after being on Twitch for so many years. Fuck no. I love how everybody think you got Ludwig to remove a part of his video, though you never even watched it. Yeah, that part of the conversation is somewhat tangentially related to what I'm talking about here as well, but that is just an unfortunate byproduct of easily brigadeable subreddits that still play somewhat of a formative role in the way that people understand what's going on in the platform. Everyone is busy. This is a principle that I've held on to for a very long time. Everyone's busy, so they don't have time to like investigate this stuff thoroughly. And so when enough people can go and brigade a subreddit where like people can just like quickly try to figure out what the fuck's going on, and every single comment is like aligned in a certain perspective, then yeah, of course, people are not going to look into it a little bit. They're not going to look into it any further. They're just going to take it for granted that like I hold the purse for Twitch. I'm the puppeteer of Twitch, and also simultaneously am the reason why there is an apocalypse happening, because I'm a lover of terrorism and also a massive anti-Semite. Now, of course, all of that is untrue, but it doesn't really matter. I speak for 8 to 10 hours a day. You can clip me out of context to make it seem like I'm on board with anything, really, at that point. I talk about a litany of different issues. So it is what it is. But I do think that, you know, even people who could have had like direct access to someone like myself to ask me what they think is going on, like Ludwig, and sometimes get duped by mischief clip farming and trying to get a upvoted Reddit post on LSF. Yeah, none of this is going to matter. Trump's pick for chairman for the FCC is Brendan Carr. He wrote the FCC part of Project 2025. In other news, that is, of course, incredibly not even remotely surprising. Donald Trump is doing a Project 2025 pick, and also the same what do you call it? The same 501c3, 501c4 killer bill is back. Republicans are going to try to push through the House again. So there's that as well. What is LSF? It's just a subreddit that people go to try to, to figure out what the fuck's going on Twitch. But it's like completely brigaded at this point. And that's why this sort of stuff pops off. Asmongold says Hasan is the main reason for the Twitch adpocalypse. This, I think, is already out of context, especially because like Asmongold yesterday took credit for it. And then the day after he said, I'm responsible for it. But I don't even think he thinks I'm responsible for it at all. But it doesn't matter. Just ban Hasan. Mizgiv actually knows what's going on. Like all this stuff is immediately brigaded and upvoted like consistently to create a certain narrative. The stock guy now clarifies there's no adpocalypse. Never said there was. I'm sure that if you look at the comments, people are just like, duking it out in the marketplace of ideas. But has all this drama caused you to consider taking a break from not streaming 5 Hearts Under One Roof gameplay? All these years of not streaming 5 Hearts Under One Roof gameplay must have you exhausted. Maybe take a break and stream some 5 Hearts Under One Roof. That's the K dating game, right? What is this? Right? You live rent free in Hasan's head. Yeah, I mean, this guy is just like endlessly posting about me, but it's okay. I don't really care. It's neither here nor there. It's literally just admin and defense completely. Yeah. Let's move on. It's become virtually indistinguishable from Destiny subreddit. Yeah, it has, because it's run by a Destiny Orbiter. Destiny has a cult of cyber harassers, basically cyber terrorists. They call themselves the Dalaban. And not only do they call themselves that, but like they have Orbiter awards, I think, like yearly. And one of the guys that used to actually watch me as well, it was a former Twitch staffer, is now in control of LSF. So if you're confused as to why this kind of insane brigading occurs on LSF, not only do they brigade it, they run the actual subreddit, and they also simultaneously will always write in the comments like, Hasan is always brigading LSF. It just, it is what it is. All right. Bro, none of this passes the bus driver test. Yes, exactly. We're going to do morning show, Morning Joe. Don't worry, we got it. 3/4 of their mods are also Destiny mods. Yeah, I know. I've already, if you don't know what Orbiter meaning, it comes out from a meaning a person who constantly hangs out with someone they're attracted to, but too shy to talk to. Yeah. We're going to do Morning Joe. Okay. We're going to do that in a second. What is this? Did you see the Uncle Sam's earlier stream today regarding the
guess as to who
Department of Education pick?
Trump is looking at for Secretary of Education?
You never know when it comes to Trump, but if I were to put my money on, I'd put it actually on Tiffany Justice, the Moms for Liberty co-founder.
Oh, Jesus.
Well, the good news is they
no pun intended.
They lost a bunch of their school board races, so
They did, but she is certainly pushing for this job, and we'll see what happens.
Well, I guess we'll see. We're gonna link that. It's hard for me to talk after that.
Yeah,
Josh Cowan, professor of education policy at Michigan State University, author of The Privateers: How Billionaires Created a Culture War.
3 Razmian, thank you for the 20 gifted subs. Once again, your support is what maintains my editorial independence and allows me to overcome obstacles such as the ones that we were talking about. You can support the broadcast by subscribing for $6 or for free with a Twitch Prime, or by gifting subs to others so they can also subscribe. This way they will be able to send me links in the chat.
And sold school vouchers. Very important for people to understand these dynamics, because this
Orbital
is going to
Pyramid.
play out.
Thank you for the 10 gifted
the
subs.
culture war part right there. Moms of Liberty. I mean, this is the way that they're doing it. And it's going to be this is going to be an important fight, and actually could end up being like an important wedge issue that people use in some ways disempower the Trump administration. Josh Cowens, thanks again. We will link to that at majority.fm and the
Yeah. Gum Daddy Big Bucks Prio. Thank you for the 10. Okay, so we're waiting on the Matt Gaetz leaks, the pedogate leak. Okay. Weren't those ladies outed as swingers? Some of the moms of liberty people have, yes, been outed as swingers. It happens all the time. It's always the biggest fucking psychotic Christian fundamentalists that do a whole bunch of incredibly fucked up, sometimes like, criminal things like violating statutory rape laws and things of that nature. It's not always just people who swing. Okay. It's funny when they're like bisexual swingers, as long as they are engaging in consensual acts of sexual intercourse. However, there are a lot of people in those circles that also do a shit ton of non-consensual things, illegal things, and they get arrested for it, as a matter of fact. ESL moment, what's a swinger? Swingers are people who, engage in group sex or, swap partners and stuff. You might remind people to re-up their Prime membership now that you aren't running ads. I depended on the ads showing up to remind me. Yeah. So, all right, we'll do the Biden, Ukraine, U.S. long-range weapons inside of Russia thing later. I don't know. I have seen the latest from Bad Empanada. I'm not going to watch it, dude. Please. Okay, please. All right. We're going to talk about Pete Hegseth. Mainstream media is, at this point, like a week late. They're a week late on these stories that I uncovered immediately after the Pete Hegseth nom. They're talking about the settlement that Pete Hegseth engaged in with a woman who credibly accused him of sexual assault, and also the tattoos that he has that caused him to not participate in the inauguration, even though he's a part of the National Guard. Why was he not allowed to participate in the inauguration as a part of the National Guard? Because he has right-wing extremist Christian fundamentalist tattoos. He has the Deus Vult tattoo on his arm, and he has the Jerusalem cross on his chest. Both of these are white nationalist, Christian nationalist tattoos. Many neo-Nazis have these tattoos. It's not as aggressive or as overt as like a black sun or a swastika, but it's more in line with Christian nationalism. Source, well, you're about to see it in a second. It's so funny to go source on Christian nationalist tattoos because it's on his body. Like, it's literally on his body. And not only is it on his body, he wrote an entire book about how pissed he was that they wouldn't let him participate in the inauguration because of his tattoos. Not only did he write a book about it, but he also personally talked to Sean Ryan. No, they are not Lamau. What? The Jerusalem cross and Deus Vult aren't Christian nationalist tattoos? What are you talking about? Also, Pete Hegseth himself is a rabid Christian fundamentalist, a rabid Christian nationalist. He has openly said his incredibly violent desires time and time again on camera and at numerous conferences as well. I covered a lot of this stuff multiple times throughout the past couple of weeks at this point, so you can go and look at my coverage on the matter. Also, 2024 Kanye is a very funny name for a person to be like, I don't understand what you mean about the Deus Vult.
Donald Trump, his choices for his cabinet are coming under increasing fire, possibly facing confirmation battles in the Republican-controlled Senate. Chief White House correspondent Mary Bruce is at Mar-a-Lago. Good morning, Mary.
Good morning, George. Well, Donald Trump ran as a disruptor, promising to shatter the status quo. And based on his cabinet picks, he intends to make good on that promise if he can get them confirmed.
President-elect Donald Trump Saturday at an Ultimate Fighting Championship event alongside controversial members of his new team. As this morning, Trump is gearing up for his own fight to get his cabinet picks confirmed.
These are disruptors. They are. I think that's by design.
Questions continue to grow over Trump's choice for defense secretary. Fox News host Pete Hegseth. His attorney confirming Hegseth paid a woman who accused him of sexual assault in 2017 as part of a settlement agreement, though claiming the encounter was consensual. Trump was made aware of the incident shortly after he named Hegseth to the position and is standing by him. His team saying that Hegseth has vigorously denied any and all accusations and no charges were filed. We look forward to his confirmation. Hegseth is also under fire for some of his tattoos.
Hash Brown 221, thank you for the 521 gift to subs. How are they disruptors when they staff basically the entirety of the apparatus? Yeah, they're not real disruptors, I guess. There are certain aspects of it that is disruptive. Having someone like Pete Hegseth run the DOD is unique. Okay? It is unique because he does not have the adequate experience. Like, he is now placed on top of an organization that is literally in charge of 3 million employees. Okay? That's crazy. You can't have someone who is a weekend Fox News host do that job. Like, out of nowhere. He does not have adequate work experience. Okay? Like, that's crazy. That is like that is definitely disruptive. Okay? Having said, or Matt Gaetz has no relevant experience with the exception of being in the crosshairs of the legal system. Okay? The only relevant experience Matt Gaetz has to be Attorney General is that he has been investigated by the Department of Justice. That's it. Okay? Like, that's insane. That's an insane thing to do, to put him in the top cop slot. Okay? The Deus Vault slogan has been used by perpetrators of right-wing terrorism. It was repeatedly used by the perpetrator of the 2017 Quebec City mosque shooting and was one of the tattoos on the body of the perpetrator of the 2023 Allen, Texas outlet mall shooting. Deus Vault was among the slogans and symbols used during the violent far-right riot of Charlottesville, Virginia in 2017. Yes. He is legit a lawyer. Yeah, brother. He went to law school and went into private practice for a year and then immediately ran for office. So no, he does not have legitimate lawyer bona fides at all. That is ridiculous, okay? Having a law degree does not make you a legitimate fucking lawyer, okay? Chunk Weiger, my uncle, okay? Shaky Gurga, Cenk Uygur, also has a law degree. I don't think he should be Attorney General. Except he would still be more qualified than Matt Gaetz because he hasn't, done illegal shit. His only litigation experience was suing his dad's friend or some shit for health benefits.
Depicting religious symbols and phrases that fellow service members flagged to his superiors over concerns they're associated with white supremacists. Hegseth saying those concerns amount to anti-Christian bigotry, posting they can target
That's crazy.
me. I don't.
That's crazy. This is anti-Christian bigotry. Once again, the Deus Vault tattoo, okay? Here, let's look at Wikipedia, okay? Let's resort to my favorite website, Wikipedia. Deus Vault is a Christian motto relating to divine providence. It was first chanted by Catholics during the First Crusade as a rallying cry, most likely under the form Deus Le Vault or Deus Le Vault, as reported by Gesta Francorum. Okay? In modern times, the Latin motto has different meanings depending on the context. It has been used as a metaphor referring to God's will by Christians throughout history, such as the Puritans. The modern application is an adoption by right-wing groups as a slogan. Deus Vault has been adopted by a slogan by a variety of Christian right and Christian nationalist groups, as well as alt-right and white supremacist groups. This usage was disseminated widely online through hashtags and internet memes. Crusader memes, such as an image of a Knight Templar accompanied by the caption, "I'll see your jihad and raise you one crusade," are popular on far-right internet pages. It is one of the several pieces of Crusader imagery used by groups characterized in the Washington Post as far-right Christian nationalists and dominionists. One perspective is that racist movements co-opt the slogans and iconography of the European medieval period to evoke a fantasy of a pure white European heritage, a nostalgic view that is historically inaccurate and has been denounced by medievalist scholars as a gross distortion of history. Okay? What is hilarious about this is that it also runs with this false understanding that these guys in Europe were white that were doing the Crusades. It's no different than the way that, for example, the Nazis hailed the Roman era regardless of the fact that Germans or the early German tribes were directly at odds with the Romans and fought them, as a matter of fact, successfully, despite the fact that they were barbarians and living in mud huts at the time. So they also hailed the Roman mythology as though it was, Teutoburger Wald. It was very funny that they, pointed to the Romans as this like, white society when it very clearly was not. People still do that, for the record. They still point to, a lot of fascists love LARPing and, utilizing Roman imagery, for example, like the Roman salute, or more famously known as, the Sig Heil. This is not Nazi Germany. What? Yeah, this is something different. The Deus Vult slogan has been used by perpetrators of right-wing terrorism. It was repeatedly used by the perpetrator of the 2017 Quebec City mosque shooting and was one of the tattoos on the body of the perpetrator of the 2023 Allen, Texas outlet mall shooting. Deus Vult among the slogans and symbols used during the violent far-right riot in Charlottesville, Virginia in 2017. The slogan, as well as other Knights Templar imagery, has also been associated with far-right subgroups in the U.S. that merge Christian nationalism with gun culture. A Florida gun manufacturer engraved the slogan on its Crusader model of the AR-15 style rifle. The motto is also used by Christian nationalist groups in Europe. The phrase was portrayed on large banners carried by unspecified groups characterized by The Guardian as far-right marchers in 2017 in Warsaw, Poland. Okay? So, yes, having a Deus Vult tattoo is weird and suspicious. It's especially weird and suspicious when you have also very openly, as Pete Hegseth has, imaginably racist things about how we have to do crusades against the jihadi Muslims over and over again. He has literally said that. So once again, we are looking at, symbols, okay? We're looking at symbols to indicate whether or not this person has weird opinions when he's openly stating his weird opinions, okay? He's openly stating his violent desires with regular frequency. That's it.
I don't give a damn. But this type of targeting of Christians, conservatives, patriots, and everyday Americans will stop on day one at Donald Trump's Department of Defense. Hegseth's post notably not disavowing the supremacists who have adopted the symbolism, though he has in the past. And this morning, a growing number of Republican senators are demanding to see the House Ethics Committee report into Trump's choice for Attorney General, former Congressman Matt Gaetz.
I believe the Senate should have access to that. Now, should it be released to the public or not? That's I guess that will be part of the negotiations, but that should be definitely part of our decision making.
While the Justice Department declined to pursue any charges, the bipartisan committee had been investigating Gaetz for allegations of sexual misconduct and illicit drug use. Sources tell ABC News a woman testified he had sex with her when she was only 17, something Gaetz has denied, as well as the drug claims. In a statement, Gaetz saying these allegations are invented and would constitute false testimony to Congress. This false smear following a 3-year criminal investigation should be viewed with great skepticism. But the investigation ended when Gaetz abruptly resigned from Congress last week, hours after Trump tapped him to be his attorney general. At the time, House Speaker Mike Johnson was non-committal on whether the committee's report should be released. But now
it should not come out. And why? Because Matt Gaetz resigned from Congress. He is no longer a...
That's weird. That's weird. That's sus. It should not come out. This report should stay hidden. Please. It should not come out. He resigned. Sorry. You can't say it. You can't, after spending years and years on this report, you can't reveal the contents of it because he resigned. That's cool.
Member.
Trump is making it clear he plans to overhaul government agencies, tasking billionaire confidant Elon Musk and Vivek Ramaswamy to lead a newly created Department of Government Efficiency.
We expect certain agencies to be deleted outright. We expect mass reductions in force in areas of the federal government that are bloated. We expect massive cuts among federal contractors and others who are overbilling the federal government.
Ramaswamy and Musk there by Trump's side at the fight this weekend. So too was his pick for Energy Secretary, Chris Wright, one of the nation's top fracking CEOs. Wright has fiercely criticized the existence of a climate crisis.
There is no climate crisis, and we're not in the midst of an energy transition either.
That's crazy. Elon Musk, hey, Elon Musk, put me in charge of the Pentagon. I'll slash $400 billion easy. That'll get you 20% to your goal of $2 trillion right out the gate. I went to Wharton 3 years before you. I own a media company, so I know how to run a business. If you really want to cut, put me in, coach. Specific suggestions are welcome. Oh my Lord. Unc, stop it, Unc. You are going to get assassinated. What the hell is going on, dude? The liberals have lost the plot. Okay, they're shaky Gurga. Don't do it. Yeah, he's gonna audit the Pentagon after fucking multiple decades of not being able to figure out where the $8 trillion black hole within the Pentagon is going to. Thanksgiving gonna be wild this year. Yeah. The climate crisis isn't happening. It's fine. Please don't look at Florida. Okay, it's normal. Florida likes being underwater. Okay, the climate crisis isn't happening. Parts of North Carolina that are elevated in the mountainside are supposed to be underwater. That's just how things work. It's called weather, guys. Come on. It's called climate, right? Hey, please. Asheville, North Carolina. That area is supposed to be underwater. It likes it. It likes being underwater. It feels good as fuck for Asheville, North Carolina to be underwater, actually. Please. Yeah. Have you ever considered how good it feels to get wet like Florida does? Yeah, 100-year droughts or floods happen every year. That's right there in the name. Okay? Yeah. Whenever climate scientists, which are, by the way, woke and gay, so obviously we don't believe them, okay? Whenever they say, hey, guys, it's kind of crazy that this once-in-a-lifetime weather event is occurring now twice a year, you should look away. They're just lying. Yeah, if the climate didn't change, we'd get bored of the climate. Who wants seasons in the normal way that people experience them? Even the Weather Channel acknowledges how fucked we are.
2024 will most likely be the first year the world surpasses that critical 1.5 degrees Celsius or 2.7 degrees Fahrenheit of warming. At 2.7 degrees Fahrenheit of warming, we could soon see breakdowns in the ocean circulation systems. That means ocean currents begin to slow, resulting in major shifts in our global weather patterns and dramatic impacts on everything from farming to sea life. Also, an alarming reduction in global sea ice and glaciers, resulting in further warming and sea level rise.
It's a good thing that we are also nuking the Department of Education so that at a time when Americans just straightforwardly say science is woke and gay and I do not care about it because they're lying to me, I've done my own research, we can now have more people join that cause of claiming science is woke and gay and that we shouldn't believe in any of that. And we should instead, believe other things that someone made up. We should believe charismatic individuals who are just making stuff up instead of people who have spent countless hours trying to figure out what the fuck is going on and make assessments about the future. Oh my God.
And global weather patterns may become even more extreme. This means more intense flooding events, bigger wildfires, more extreme droughts, and more intense heat waves. Scientists warn that...
Says the Dems, you guys push agenda in education. Like, what the fuck do you guys think? Dude, exactly. Yes. No, the agenda is called learning, okay? It's called reading a fucking book. That's the agenda. I'm sorry that it happens to correspond to a certain degree to what the liberals present themselves as defending, okay? And don't worry, the liberals have also dropped the ball spectacularly. Don't worry, Kamala Harris was talking about how she's going to do drill, baby, drill, okay? So it's not my fault. They're pushing an agenda as schools. Yeah, the agenda is called learning. The agenda is called critical thinking. The agenda is called, I don't know how to explain it. I don't know what else to say. Okay? What the fuck? Read a book. I don't know how to explain it either, or I'll get banned. No, I will not ban you for saying something stupid. I hear a fuck ton of stupid shit from people on a daily basis. I will only ban you if you just like directly start targeting members of this community and start fucking saying, trans people are morally degenerate or some shit. As long as you can explain it normally, even though it is a false understanding of reality, okay, you won't get fucking banned. fucking hate all these anti-intellectuals. I'm sorry, but like, go to college, don't have money for college. Literally, exactly. Let me get a federal loan. I'm sorry. No, it's just, I don't even fault people. I don't even fault people for, you know, being anti-education. They are a victim of circumstance. Okay. They are a victim of their own material conditions living in the United States of America. Okay. That's it. That's it. We are a nation that is actively making our own population dumber and dumber year over year. So we prioritize climate on economy. Trump's better by far. What if I were to tell you that there is a reasonable middle ground, okay, where you can still make economic improvements like a federal jobs program, for example, okay, not dissimilar to one that FDR had engaged in, right, in the New Deal that is, you know, very popular and looked back at fondly by everyone. We live in the aftermath of the New Deal, and we still benefit from it tremendously, as a matter of fact. What if I were to tell you that there is an economic solution that doesn't actually destroy the American economy and simultaneously moves us towards renewable energy? What if I were to tell you that there is a country that is out-competing us in that field pretty aggressively, and that country is called China? Not only is oil and gas a finite resource, as in it will end at one day, a reality that even the oil and gas giants, the fossil fuel industry, acknowledges, which is why they try to leverage and hedge their bets by purchasing some of these fucking renewable energy companies so that they can still, you know, they will still be able to dominate the energy sector when inevitably we move in that direction. What if I were to tell you that closing your eyes and closing your ears and going, la, 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 I can't hear you, we need to fucking keep melting this goddamn planet, is probably not a sustainable nor smart solution to the problem. We should focus on the economy instead of climate change. Also, why is my house underwater? That is the Florida conundrum. Climate change is not real. We should look away. It's not real. And then it's like, why can't I personally get insurance, flooding insurance of my house? If they take away education, freedom of press, net neutrality, cover up the truth of the damage the current economy is doing, what do we do to help keep the information flowing? I don't know. We just keep pushing, I guess.
Beyond the 2.7 degrees threshold, coral reefs begin bleaching at rates beyond repair. So while 2.7 degrees Fahrenheit may seem like a small number, the impacts that number carries is potentially life-changing.
Yeah. Government can control the weather. Okay, this guy's, he went back to Google so we can figure out a good counter to what I said. Anyway, yeah.
Wright, who has no government experience, has argued the impacts of climate change are overblown. But scientists agree humans are causing global warming and climate change. This year is shaping up to be the hottest on record, with more extreme weather events made worse by climate change expected. And
nah, dog, that's just normal, bro. It feels good. It feels good as fuck for the areas impacted like this. It's like they're cleaning it. You know what I mean? Like, think about it this way. Your car gets dirty, you get it washed, right? Like, that's kind of what's going on here. Is that the attitude? Is that what we're going to be doing in the future? You know, we're just power washing a lot of these places. Yeah. It's like going through a cleanse. I've got relatives that say Asheville floods were a result of God's punishment because of the liberal hedonistic center of North Carolina. Jeez, Lord mercy.
Expected. And leading health experts continue to sound the alarm about Trump's choice to lead the Department of Health and Human Services. Robert F. Kennedy Jr. A prominent vaccine skeptic, Kennedy is deeply suspicious of mainstream medicine and has vowed to reshape the U.S. health system.
I am outraged because lives are at stake here. To have someone leading
I hate this conversation because, like, parts of what Robert F. Kennedy says about American food is objectively correct. Okay. Parts about regulatory capture, also correct. He is the worst person to say it, however, and the media also routinely drops the ball. One passage that is burned into my mind was when RFK Jr. was talking about, like, I guess, Fruit Loops or whatever and how different it is in Canada, right? His assessment on certain fronts is completely correct, but his solution is incorrect. Okay, that's number one. Number two, when he talks about Fruit Loops in America versus Fruit Loops in Canada, he'll say, oh, they have, only 2 ingredients. He's wrong about that, right? In Canada, it's not just 2 ingredients. But the media will turn around and say, and I can't, fuck, what was the article? Like, I need to find this piece that was criticizing RFK's Fruit Loop conversation, okay? Where they were like, the difference between Fruit Loops in Canada and the chemicals that are used in Fruit Loops in the United States of America. Oh, here, this is it. This is what I was talking about. Thank you. Mr. Kennedy has singled out Fruit Loops as an example of a product with too many artificial ingredients, questioning why the Canadian version has fewer than the US version. But he was wrong. The ingredients list is roughly the same, although Canada has natural colorings made from blueberries and carrots, while the US product contains red dye 40, yellow 5, and blue 1, as well as butylated hydroxytoluene, or BHD, a lab-made chemical that is used for freshness, according to the ingredient label. So it's not the same thing. Like, what are we doing? What the fuck is the fact check here? So everyone on every side of the equation is failing spectacularly. RFK Jr. identifies a commonly held position that he is championing here and gaining prominence. The media is not accurately covering the frustration that I have, for example, with what RFK Jr. is presenting as a solution to the problem. Okay? And the issue with the circumstance is like, when they write stuff like this, people read it and go, what the fuck are you saying? Like, yeah, no, that's what he's pointing to. Like, you can't say these two things are the same with some minor differences. And the minor differences is exactly what he's pointing to. The real problem here isn't RFK saying he wants to make food healthy. That's a good and honorable goal. The real problem is he is not going to do that with this current administration, okay? Because his solution is deregulation, not correct regulation and anti-corruption, but instead deregulation. When you deregulate, you don't arrive magically at a Canadian-style fucking form of a regulatory agency. They have more regulation there. They have more regulation in Europe. That's the reason why they don't have these fucking chemicals in their food. And it's not even just these chemicals, okay? It's not. There are massive, massive problems with the food that Americans consume. New York Times edited the article because of the tweet. Oh, shit. Because of an editing error, an earlier version of this article incorrectly described Mr. Kennedy's recent comments on Fruit Loops. He was comparing the total number of ingredients in the US and Canadian version of the cereal, not the number of artificial ingredients. It's sad because I eat very healthy, with the exception of the diet sodas that I consume that are not entirely unhealthy, or there's a lot of fucking back and forth on, you know, how unhealthy some of these chemicals are. Okay. But overall, okay, I eat a healthy, balanced diet that I track, okay, pretty aggressively. I track my micronutrients. I track my macronutrients. I try to make up for specific micronutrients that I might not be getting from my my diet overall. Crumble cookie is so stupid. Yes, dude, it's normal to fucking, you know, go crazy sometimes. Like, what are you talking about? Eating a couple crumble cookies over the weekend while it's packed to the fucking gills with sugar is like eating unhealthy every now and then is not going to kill you, okay? That is literally a part of moderation. It's fine. You can do that, okay? And I say this as someone who, you know, is very careful about what I eat. Jesus Christ. Super healthy, set in front of a literal tower of nicotine. Nicotine is an infinitely healthier substitute to tobacco products. What are we talking about? I mean, come on, don't make me have this conversation over and over again, okay? Everything in moderation. Everything in fucking moderation. God forbid a grown man has a sweet treat every now and then. Exactly. Thank you. Anyway, the point is, I say this as someone who also, you know, splurges every now and then. I say this as someone who has changed my diet specifically so that I can have a sweet treat at the end of the day, an ice cream sandwich, okay? And the results speak for themselves, okay? I went from being 285 pounds and losing all of my muscle mass at the peak of COVID lockdowns to 225 pounds and, you know, getting back all of that muscle mass. I say this as someone who works out every single day of the week. I train, I weight lift, and I train 4 times a week. I do cardio and play basketball 3 times a week. Okay. I care about this shit. So it is very frustrating when I hear about, I hear from people who don't care about this shit, who spread a fuck ton of misinformation on it. Okay. The problem is it's different strokes for different folks. And our entire food industry is, for example, heavily subsidized due to heavy subsidies on corn products. We utilize high fructose corn syrup. This is part of the reason why America has a diabetes epidemic. This is the reason why America has an obesity epidemic. Another part of the problem with our highly processed foods is that there are plenty of food deserts. And also, none of our cities are fucking walkable. We have a car-reliant infrastructure. If you look to countries that have adequate public transit, people are walking around a lot more, okay? When you walk around a lot more, you are forced to, have a healthier lifestyle overall. That's it. Like, these are broad generalizations, but there is truth to what I am speaking of here, okay? All of these things play a big role in the obesity epidemic in the United States of America. Okay? I hate this shit. I hate the coverage of it. And I hate that, like, RFK Jr. is considered a champion of health when he is, genuinely anti-medicine and, in certain instances, anti-science.
Yes, who is one of the biggest deniers of vaccines in our country, would undermine the confidence in that program and likely would cost lives.
Even the conservative editorial board of the Rupert Murdoch-owned New York Post writing the overriding rule of medicine is first, do no harm. We are certain installing Robert F. Kennedy Jr. to head Health and Human Services breaks this rule. Kennedy, who has railed against processed foods and criticized Trump's diet, seen this weekend posing with the president-elect over a meal of McDonald's.
Now, overnight, Trump naming Brendan Carr to be FCC commissioner. He's served there since 2012, received high praise from Elon Musk, and notably wrote a chapter of the Project 2025 policy book on how he would run the FCC. The big question for all of these nominees, of course, can they get confirmed in the Senate? And if not, will Trump urge the Senate to waive its confirmation responsibilities to push them through via recess appointments? George?
Yes, this is a real test of the Republican-led Senate. Okay, Mary, thanks very much.
This morning, President-elect...
Yeah, also... Donald Trump has officially confirmed that he is going to do mass deportation with use of military assets. It is virtually impossible for him to conduct mass deportations with the current existing ICE structure. There's simply not enough people to be able to engage in this. And now he is talking about deploying the American military on U.S. soil. This is legitimately terrifying. Okay? I mean, I'm eagerly waiting for an apology from my dad, who said this was just a campaign thing and he wouldn't actually do this or be allowed to do it by the course. Surely this apology will come in any minute now.
Elect Trump signaling a major move on immigration, responding true to a post on his social media platform, saying he will declare a national emergency and use military assets for a mass deportation program, a program he pledged to implement during his campaign, which focused in part on immigration and the southern border.
The Republican platform promises to launch the largest deportation operation in the history of our country.
And he's promised to use the military as enforcement in the past.
We must use any and all resources needed to stop the invasion, including moving thousands of troops currently stationed overseas.
Now, as Mr. Trump nods to his immigration plans and prepares for office, he's also facing a fight in Washington on some of the picks for his new administration, after taking in a different kind of fight at a UFC match with allies this weekend. The spotlight now on his choice to lead the Pentagon. Former
Aiden Ross begging Trump to deport you as we speak. Yeah. I am on the list, I think, of potential deportation nominees, but I'm on the tail end. For certain parts of my commentary, I'm on the first in line. But for other parts of my denaturalization process, I'm on the end of the line. So, being openly anti-Israel puts me in the top slot, as Project 2025 has a specific branch dedicated to Project Esther, which dictates that they will go after anyone and everyone that criticizes Israel, hurts Israel's feelings, and hit him with RICO charges, and actively work to deport them from the country. But on the other side, I'm on the tail end of the list. If I wasn't an outspoken critic of the nation state of Israel, I would be on the opposing side, or not opposing, but on the other side of the deportation process, where I'd be in the last part of the denaturalization. The crazy stalkers don't need to know that. Yeah. Now, people go, oh, well, this violates Posse Comitatus Act, federal law, signed into law on June 18th, 1878 by President Rutherford B. Hayes, that limits the powers of the federal government in the use of federal military personnel to enforce domestic policies within the United States. The problem is, what are you going to do? Take it up to the fucking Supreme Court? What are the safeguards here? What are the safeguards that we currently have? What are the legal safeguards that we currently have? I'm about to put some trash in my neighbor's garbage can. Don't do it! There are no checks and balances against this. The Supreme Court is completely in the tank for Donald Trump. So much so that they've given Donald Trump additional protection from legal scrutiny. Okay? So everything that he says he's going to do, look forward to him actually successfully implementing. Okay? There is no reason to believe that Donald Trump this time around is not going to be able to follow through with a lot of these promises. Yes, it goes hand in hand with how he wants to use the Alien Enemies Act to turbocharge deportations. Trump is promising deportations under the Alien Enemies Act of 1798. Okay? Former President Donald Trump, whose bid for the White House has been dominated by his increasingly hardline anti-immigration rhetoric, is vowing to use an obscure centuries-old law to expedite the removal of undocumented immigrants from the United States. I will invoke the Alien Enemies Act of 1798 to target and dismantle every migrant criminal network operating on American soil, he said at a recent rally in California. Ironically enough, a lot of the states, if they refuse to collaborate with the federal government on this sort of thing, refuse to give the federal government information on where migrants are, for example, undocumented migrants are, will trigger a massive constitutional crisis, because then they would have to fight against each individual state. It would literally be civil war. Trump is promising that if reelected, he will use the act to initiate a federal effort called Operation Aurora, named after the Colorado town that he claims has been taken over by Venezuelan gangs, which residents and local officials dispute, to target undocumented migrant gang members for arrest and deportation. It is also suggested that the act could be used to end sanctuary cities, which limit cooperation with federal immigration authorities, telling Fox News' Harris Faulkner that we can do things in terms of moving people out. It's also name-checked in the Republican Party's official 2024 platform, Agenda 47, which says it will invoke the law to remove all known or suspected gang members, drug dealers, or cartel members in the United States, ending the scourge of illegal alien gang violence once and for all. Now, why is this important? Why is this important? Why are they using this kind of language? Before you say, excuse me, I don't want violent drug dealers to operate inside of our national boundaries. They are engaging in a direct violation of the law. The local law enforcement authorities that do collaborate when it comes to, murders and drug dealing and federal offenses already do prosecute these people. And then the federal government does deport them after the criminal trial is over. Saying you're going to do this to suspected drug dealers opens up the boundaries of what the existing law is. Just so you understand, they're using MS-13 or Tren de Aragua, which is the new MS-13, the Venezuelan version, to say they are going to go after every single migrant. They are not going to go after criminals, because the government, the local authorities, and the federal government already does go after criminals. Cry me a river, you say? Oh my God. For a lot of people that have completely checked out, I think, of, hoping that anything good will happen, they are just running on fucking fumes, okay? They're angry. They don't know what the fuck they're angry about. And they are specifically saying, no, it's good. Let's just punish those who are even less fortunate than we are, and then maybe I will feel better. You will not feel better, okay? You will not feel better when this happens. you will actually suffer even more when this happens, especially when, if you are the most selfish person and don't give a fuck about the fact that this would mean that 1 in 15 families that are mixed status households would actually have an immediate family member forcibly ripped and removed from their immediate family members for no crime other than existing on U.S. soil and participating in the American economy. If you don't care about the inhumanity of that situation, you will care when your economy is imploding. Okay? It is ironic that so many people said they are voting for Donald Trump because of food prices, not realizing that undocumented migrants are responsible for damn near the entirety of America's agricultural production. This is precisely the reason why when Donald Trump uses the Bracero program or Operation, WB, won't say it, okay, that's what it was called, when he hailed that as a fantastic, thing to do that he was going to bring back in a big way, right, under the Eisenhower administration, the American government engaged in mass deportations of 1.2 million, I believe, if not even more than that, mass deportation of 1.2 million people of Mexican background, including but not limited to American citizens of Mexican descent, for the record. Okay. And in that process, Texas and many other places that relied on Mexican labor, farmhands, and the like were actually openly defending through violent means against the federal government their fellow laborers. Things will change very quickly when you start recognizing that this is going to genuinely destroy American agricultural production. Did Hassan just say a slur? What? No, I didn't. I purposely didn't say the name of the operation. Bros are horny for clips. Yeah. So excited. He's like, ooh, maybe I can get him canceled now. Estimated 350,000 to 1 million deported, up to 60% of Americans. I'm sure the real number is way higher than 1 million. Those agricultural production facilities took the risk of hiring illegal immigrants, knowing that they may get deported for violating the law due to illegally immigrating here. The production may get slashed, but that is the result of cheap corporate greed. Yeah, the problem is there is no way to fill this role. You understand that, right? The real solution is not to forcibly remove millions of people that are participating in the economy in very meaningful ways, in much more meaningful ways than you, I'm loco. Okay, the solution is to document these people and allow them to participate in even more meaningful ways in the American economy and allow them to actually demand fairer wages, for example. If the price of eggs are going to go up, if the price of avocado is going to go up, regardless, I would rather have it go up in a more ethical way, in a more sustainable way in the interim period than one that will completely destroy the American economy. Okay? If you voted for Donald Trump personally because you thought he was going to lower the egg prices, for example, you are in for a very hard, very shitty surprise when you realize that the price of eggs are going to shoot up to $20 fucking when there's no one to, work in the poultry facilities. The only difference is absolutely zero people are so racist that they will forego their treats. Okay? That's it. Everything that Donald Trump has ironically advocated for is actually inflationary, even though he was seen as the solution to the inflation crisis that Americans were experiencing. Wage growth did not outpace the cost of goods, the cost of goods going up. Tariffs, on the other hand, is inflationary, and so is mass deportation of 20 million migrants. Poultry and produce farms will become the new work camps to extract free labor of undocumented? Yes. Source for what? Anyway, those were the old days when they had tough politicians told the crowd of supporters. Think of that. 1798. Oh, it's a powerful act. You couldn't pass something like that today. Let's continue.
Fox News anchor Pete Hegseth. His attorney confirms to NBC News Hegseth paid a settlement to a woman last year after she previously accused him of sexual assault in 2017. But the attorney says Hegseth maintains his innocence and that the encounter was consensual.
Do you think that this matter could sink Pete Hegseth's confirmation?
It could. We'll figure out if he can get confirmed or not. And I do think that Pete's a good pick for this position.
Mr. Trump has told advisors he plans to stand by Hegseth after a recent conversation with his nominee, according to the New York Times, citing two people briefed on the discussion. Also facing new
Like, dude, the way I see this working, by the way, and there's a reason why, like, the price or the stock prices of private prisons shot up after the Trump victory, is the way I foresee this happening is private prison facilities are going to come back in a fucking massive way. Okay. They are going to build new private prison facilities, work camps, basically. And all of the migrants that they put into these work camps are going to have to work for free at gunpoint to engage in this agricultural production that they were already doing for pennies on the dollar, but this time they'll have to do it for free. This is my speculation, okay? My suspicion is we already have slavery in this country. It is constitutionally protected as a form of punishment, and we will utilize it. Slavery is illegal? No, it's not. Slavery is very much legal, please. The 13th Amendment that is supposed to abolish slavery actually still maintains slavery as a legal form of punishment. Okay? It is still abso-fucking-lutely legal. It's legal in virtually every state. Okay? California, as a matter of fact, just reconfirmed its legal status in a ballot measure. California voted to keep slavery as a legal form of punishment 2 fucking weeks ago.
Backlash, the president-elect's choice of now former Florida Congressman Matt Gaetz to lead the Department of Justice, with multiple sources telling NBC News he faces a very different...
For the record, before people say, what are you saying about agricultural workforce? Okay. What do you mean about agricultural workforce? Immigrants in American farms. In 2019, more than half of all hired farm workers in the United States were immigrants, or roughly 450,000 workers. In many states known for their fresh produce, immigrant farm laborers make up large shares of miscellaneous agricultural workers. In the state of California, 79.3% of agricultural workers are foreign-born. They're either on a specific migrant worker visa, or they are undocumented workers. Okay? In Washington, it's 77%. In Oregon, it's 73%. In Florida, it's 70.9%. In Arizona, it's 69.8%. In North Carolina, it's 64.3%. Okay? Share of miscellaneous agricultural workers in crop production that are undocumented as of 2019 is 30.9%. If you forcibly removed even 31% of the entire labor force in the agricultural sector, what do you think that would do to prices? What do you think that would do to supply? What do you think that would do to the supply of readily available agricultural goods? Yes, I know. Cal matters. California rejected the ballot measure to. California rejected the ballot measure to. I mean, this is horrible. Remove slavery exception. 53% of Californians voted to maintain slavery as a form of punishment. Now, for people who are saying, why the fuck did that happen? It is because, number one, there was a big ass fucking campaign, okay, against removing it. And number two, it didn't have slavery in the way that they wrote it. They wrote it as, like servitude as a form of punishment. That was the reason why a lot of people were confused. It was written as indentured servitude, involuntary servitude, not indentured servitude, sorry. In other states where they openly write it as slavery, these ballot measures actually pass. They abolish slavery, but when you write it as involuntary servitude, people don't fully understand what that means, especially when there are active. Yeah. Tennessee wrote it specifically as slavery, and it was banned by 80% of the vote. Tennessee voters officially banned all forms of slavery in the state. Tennessee has officially banned all forms of slavery. Voters on Tuesday approved a ballot measure, this was back in 2022, that removes language of allowing slavery and involuntary servitude as forms of punishment for those convicted of crimes. The measure got 80% of the vote. Okay? Anyway, words matter. Okay? The way people apply language in this situation and weaponize it matter.
Difficult path to confirmation. Gates resigned his seat last week, ending a House Ethics Committee investigation into whether he engaged in sexual misconduct and illicit drug use. Allegations.
If you keep scrolling, it shows the number of Americans that kept doing agricultural jobs, 0.01%. What do you mean?
He denies. While some in both parties want the committee to release its report, House Speaker Mike Johnson disagrees, saying Gates is now a private citizen.
I think that would be a Pandora's box.
Hallie, let's go back to this news that just broke overnight. President-elect Trump confirming that he wants to declare a national emergency, and then that would enable him to use the military. How might that work? How much would it cost?
Let me take the second part of your question first, Savannah. How much would it cost? The answer is a lot of money, but we can't get super specific because it's not clear how much. There's one estimate that suggests it could be something like $90 billion a year. That's from an immigration rights group, which also questions the impact to the economy more broadly, saying that the annual GDP could take a hit because of the removal of workers, especially in the construction and hospitality industries. But President-elect Trump and his allies have argued this issue is so important. It was so central to his campaign that it goes beyond cost. Mr. Trump, remember, told NBC News right after the election that there's no price tag on this because there's no choice other than to do it. He would need Congress to approve the money he needs. But remember, both the House and the Senate will be in Republican control next year. As for the practicalities, how does this actually work? Again, real question marks there. Mr. Trump was pressed repeatedly during his campaign for answers on the specifics, but that's still not clear. We are, of course, out to the Trump transition for any more details on the plan. Savannah?
All right. Hallie Jackson leading us off from Washington. Thank you.
Hey, thanks for watching. Don't miss the Today Show every weekday at 11 a.m. Eastern, 8 Pacific on our streaming channel, Today All Day. To watch, head to today.com.
Heated confrontation between Elon Musk and Trump advisor Axios reports. But before we get to that, before we get to the drama, okay, what? Have you seen this yet? I did. The AOC thing. I did. It was really funny. They're calling her an anti-Semite. Okay. No price tag. Has any Democrat ever said anything like that ever? Why is this what is essential but not healthcare? What is wrong with the Democrats? I hate it. Yeah. So before we move on to the internal drama here, okay, I do want to show you, and before we talk about like the Amsterdam mayor saying that, oopsie, maybe it wasn't a pogrom that occurred in Amsterdam and that I was right because, you know, I was just looking at the actual facts and not hysterically screeching. So before we get to all of that, let's talk about something different. Let's go back to my favorite MSNBC morning show. Now, if you have an assortment of clips from Mika Brzezinski and Joe Scarborough, I would love to see them because if I recall correctly, not that long ago, as recently as like last week or a week prior, Joe and Mika were calling Donald Trump Hitlerian, Adolf Hitler. Now they have a very different attitude about Donald Trump. If you want the full video, it's on the playlist. No, before the full video, I want Joe Scarborough and Joe Scarborough talking about Donald Trump and resisting Donald Trump. Let's find a clip. Let's see if I can find one real quick.
Mr. Schmidt, this is your extraordinary.
No, this isn't Joe Scarborough. Hold on. Because Joe Scarborough and Mika Brzezinski had openly stated time and time again.
One show that's more responsive. That's
okay. I don't want. I want clips. I want the clips. Does anyone have clips? Can you find me some clips of Joe Scarborough talking about Trump being Adolf Hitler? Because I know that it exists because I remember watching it. Okay. Oh, here, perfect.
People in the media have a responsibility to really tune out the voices
of the haters, of the people that are constantly double
Shilling
and
for
triple
him.
checking and shilling for him and suggesting that somehow they're being biased, bending over backwards, treating him like a normal candidate. He's not a normal candidate. He is running to end American democracy as we know it. He's an authoritarian who a court in Colorado 2 days ago ruled that he led an insurrection against the United States government. He's charged with leading schemes to help overthrow the United States government. So if they want to frame it that way, that's fine. If you want to be fair, then you will frame this as Joe Biden being the candidate that supports American democracy and Donald Trump, a candidate who supports a new form of government here that's authoritarian. It's really that simple. And by the way, Reverend Al, when people go, oh, you can't compare him to past Nazi leaders, you can't compare him to this past Nazi leader or that past fascist leader, because he hasn't done that. Well, what hasn't he done? He hasn't done the things that the American judicial system did not allow him to do last time, but may very well allow him to do this time, or a judicial system that will be ignored by Donald Trump and ran over by Donald Trump to create the greatest constitutional crisis of our lifetimes. Just because he hasn't done it yet doesn't mean he won't do it when he gets a chance to do it. And if he is voted into office, then a lot of these people that are talking about literal or figurative or whatever the hell they're saying, you're going to look like idiots. Because he will get away with, he will imprison, he will execute whoever he's allowed to imprison, execute, drive from the country. Just look at his past. It's not really hard to read. The only thing that stood between him and the destruction of American democracy was the federal judiciary.
No doubt about it. And I think.
Damn, man, these guys are popping. I mean, they're popping off. They're popping off. They're so right. They're so right about this, okay?
He's constantly trying to distract. He's constantly trying to change the subject. He wants to talk about anything that will stop him from talking about policy because he doesn't know policy. He's never known policy. He never will know policy.
It's just like, damn, they're really popping off on this stuff. Let me see. Hold on. I want to see more from Joe talking about, before Donald Trump becomes president. Let's see what else he had to say.
Won in 2016, and that was because of white voters. And I think part of this race-based fear rhetoric is that on some instinctive level informed by the top lines of polling is that he thinks white people aren't scared enough in these places in the upper Midwest. And so you talk about Haitians taking over Springfield, and in a lot of these speeches he gave over the weekend, they were in those states where he's tried to scare the crap out of white voters to try to get them back because he can't believe that Kamala Harris is doing as well with them as she is.
And again, saying they're going to come to your kitchen or your house and slit your throat. That's where he's gotten. Can you imagine? First of all, it's hard to project this onto any other country because of the unique place and the unique role that the United States plays in global affairs. But could you imagine us following a campaign in the UK, in France, in any major industrialized country where somebody who is tied is running around talking about the eating of dogs and cats, talking about people coming to your houses and slitting your throats, talking about celebrating a day of violence, talking about being a dictator for a day. We could go down the list. It really is, I think, because.
Wow, these guys are really popping off about Donald Trump and the very real and immediate danger that Donald Trump presents to the future of America. Donald Trump is hailing a modern version of American fascism and actively talking about how Donald Trump is doing that. Here's Joe calling him a danger to democracy and a liar.
Do you not call it a threat to democracy when Donald Trump says that he wants to execute the chairman of the Joint Chiefs for treason? Is that not a threat? That your vice president deserves lynching? Saying that to your legal counsel?
So why am I showing all of this? Well, lo and behold, now that Donald Trump is president, Joe Scarborough on his morning show spent basically every waking moment blaming the libs, okay, blaming the progressives, talking about trans people, talking about how woke was the reason why Donald Trump became president. And then this morning, as of today, it turns out, you know, Joe Scarborough went from saying Donald Trump is Hitler to hiling Hitler. Personally, literally. They went from calling Donald Trump Hitler to hiling Hitler in less than a week. These people hate progressives who advocate for free college and free healthcare more than people who want to do mass deportations. They've only been complaining about the left this past month.
Over the past...
Lo and behold, Joe Scarborough and Mika Brzezinski, two people that were directly connected to Donald Trump in very meaningful ways for years and years and years, have rekindled that relationship once again. It turns out they don't mind how much of a fucking fascist Donald Trump is.
Last week, Joe and I have heard from so many people, from political leaders to regular citizens, deeply dismayed by several of President-elect Trump's cabinet selections, and they are scared. Last Thursday, we expressed our own concerns on this broadcast and even said we would appreciate the opportunity to speak with the president-elect himself. On Friday, we were given the opportunity to do just that. Joe and I went to Mar-a-Lago to meet personally with President-elect Trump. It was the first time we have seen him in 7 years.
Now, we talked about a lot of issues, including abortion, mass deportation, threats of political retribution against political opponents, and media outlets. We talked about that a good bit. And it's going to come as no surprise to anybody who watches this show, has watched it over the past year or over the past decade, that we didn't see eye to eye on a lot of issues, and we told him so.
What we did agree on was to restart communications. My father often spoke with world leaders with whom he and the United States profoundly disagreed.
Her father, which I can't say his name, it's impossible, Zbigniew Brzezinski, okay, famously also talked about Big Z himself, famously also talked about how wonderful it was that they had radicalized the Mujahideen in Afghanistan, giving the USSR its own version of Vietnam. When directly asked a question about the threat of Islamist fundamentalism that the American government had actively spearheaded, okay, he said, what's more dangerous? We were able to bring the USSR to heel by activating these radical groups inside of Afghanistan, forcing them to do their own version of Vietnam that ended up destroying the USSR. A couple radical Islamist fundamentalists with arms is not that big of a threat. Now, of course, he said that before 9/11, famously. After 9/11, he, you know, I wonder what his opinion was. I think he ran away from that interview. Okay? That's neither here nor there. Big Z is just one of many different villains that has worked in the American administration. But, you know, he's dead now, and it doesn't really matter. So let's get back to the matter at hand. Mika and Joe. I showed you guys all of the times when they were like, this guy's Hitler, this guy's Hitler, this guy's Hitler. And now they're saying they're having a cordial relationship that they have restarted with Adolf Hitler. So the question remains, were they lying when they said Donald Trump is Adolf Hitler? If you're a right-winger, you're going to point to this and say, of course they were lying. See, there it is. These guys don't believe anything that they're saying. And the right-wingers are, to a certain degree, correct, that they don't necessarily believe that Donald Trump is Adolf Hitler. They are correct on that. However, as someone looking at this from the outside, I do believe that Donald Trump is a fascist. I just simply think they don't care. I think they do not care that Donald Trump is a fascist because they want to keep their cushy media jobs. They want to keep their waning influence, okay? And as ratings fall apart in a disastrous fashion for the likes of MSNBC and CNN, these brown nosers are trying to desperately cling on to any crumb of relevance they can. If they didn't care, why would they keep ringing alarm bells about it constantly before, though? Great question. But if they do care, why are they now capitulating? That's it. It's because liberals are showing their bellies, okay? Understand. This is why I said, looking at exactly what German liberalism looked like in the buildup to Nazi Germany, okay? German business owners, German capitalists, and their participation within the rise of Nazi Germany as his rise to power. Okay, liberals actively collaborated with the Nazi movement against communists, trade unionists, and socialists alike. And history is unfolding once again. It's repeating itself once again. These are the liberals that have now decided, okay, these are the liberals that have now decided that they would rather collaborate and collude with the fascist resurgence in this country than to actively resist it. This is why I also said this will be different this time around. Okay? When many people were talking about resistance liberalism and what that's going to look like, is it going to look exactly like 2016 when everyone immediately actively started talking about how they were going to resist against the Trump administration the first time around? I told you that it's not going to happen. Donald Trump has been president for 4 years already. These people are just going to treat him like any other Republican president. And in some respects, he is just like any other Republican president. And in many cases, he's not. He's a logical conclusion to right-wing reactionary attitudes, sentiments, and anger, okay? The resistance, never Trump Republicans, the resistance liberals are not going to be as active as they were in the media. They are going to look to find common ground with Adolf Hitler. They are going to look to find common ground with Adolf Hitler and purge Adolf Hitler's enemies. Hello. Understand that that is where we are at, okay? I'm not going to watch a 30-minute podcast from Three Arrows about America's coming Weimar moment because unfortunately it's not great to watch on stream, even though this is a fantastic piece. I like Three Arrows quite a bit. As you guys know, we've collaborated many times in the past. I do not believe, I think what is happening right now in liberal media is not an immediate resistance against like what Trump presents, but a normalization of Donald Trump. I think you will see this more and more. You will see more and more people normalizing Donald Trump and maybe even claiming, well, he's the president. We have to work with him. We have to work with what we have. Okay? And not only will they not resist in the ways that they tried to last time around, I think they're going to normalize it and look for an outgroup. Look for a common enemy. And for a lot of these people who are already former Republicans themselves, like Joe Scarborough literally is a Republican, the common enemy will be marginalized people, defenseless people, trans people, undocumented immigrants, and the left as a whole. Okay? This is exactly what happened in Nazi Germany to a fucking T. This is exactly what happened. I would like to watch, not the Three Arrows one, but I'm sure there is another YouTuber like, I'm sure there's another YouTube essay that we could watch with that has like more, visually stimulating stuff. Here is the MRC, Media Busters.
Is the time to sound the alarm? When is the time to start saying, well, does this look like Germany in 1932?
This is not a reach. I could go back and talk about Nazi Germany, and I do it without any concerns whatsoever. And if people can't start drawing the parallels, well, you're just stupid, or you have your head in the sand, or you're one of them. We still have an electorate, 70 million plus, that will be voting for a man who said he was going to assassinate for treason the chairman of the Joint Chiefs because he didn't support him on January the 6th, who said just in recent days he was going to execute Liz Cheney with a firing squad, 9 guns pointed and shooting at her face. A man who has said that he was going to shut down CBS because he didn't like how they edited an interview. A man who said he was going to be a dictator from day one.
On Friday, we were given the opportunity to do just that. Joe and I went to Mar-a-Lago to meet personally with President-elect Trump. It was the first time we have seen him in 7 years.
Now, we talked about a lot of issues, including abortion, mass deportation, threats of political retribution against political opponents, and media outlets. We talked about that a good bit. And it's going to come as no surprise to anybody who watches this show, has watched it over the past year or over the past decade, that we didn't see eye to eye on a lot of issues, and we told him so.
Donald Trump is Adolf Hitler, but here's why we're hanging out with Adolf Hitler. This is the 1 hour long, but it's amazing. German Revolution of 1918, how it all began. Yeah, I think like the part that I am specifically talking about is the active collaboration amongst liberals with Nazi Germany. And I want to draw comparisons to what's going on currently. Okay? That's what I'm looking for. And I know that there's YouTube essays on it. I've watched YouTube essays on it before. Because there's a lot of historically muddying the waters in the way that people present the buildup to the buildup to Nazi Germany and the momentum from Nazis and how people resisted the growth of the Nazi movement and the prominence it found itself in. And I think that I think that a lot of people don't realize. A lot of people don't realize the role that liberals played in maintaining the current order, the current hierarchy, and maintaining capitalism. Okay? To be honest, I don't see your point. You keep showing a clip of them saying they talked to him. So what? Are people not allowed to talk to him? If you say Donald Trump is Adolf Hitler, then you're basically saying you're talking to Adolf Hitler and you're reigniting your relationship with Adolf Hitler. You're not supposed to do that. Okay? What a ridiculous fucking take. You either are openly demonstrating that you don't care that he's Adolf Hitler, or you're saying that you were lying about him being Adolf Hitler this whole time. Republicans will look at this and go, they were lying about Trump being Adolf Hitler. I look at this and go, they do not care that Donald Trump is a fascist.
That's a task shared by reporters and commentators alike. We had not spoken to President Trump since March of 2020, other than a personal call Joe made to Trump on the morning after the attempt on his life in Butler, Pennsylvania. In this meeting, President Trump was cheerful, he was upbeat, he seemed interested in finding common ground with Democrats on some of the most divisive issues. And for those asking why we would go speak to the president-elect during such fraught times, especially between us, I guess I would ask back, why wouldn't we? 5 years of political warfare has deeply divided Washington and the country. We have been as clear as we know how in expressing our deep concerns about President Trump's actions and words in the coarsening of public debate. But for nearly 80 million Americans, election denialism, public trials, and January 6th were not as important as...
Those are not the worst parts of Donald Trump's potential second coming. The worst parts of Donald Trump's second coming is not January 6th, okay? It's mass deportations, you fucking idiots. And it's very obvious that this is the reason why the Democrats never found a successful narrative that penetrated public consciousness on the dangers that Donald Trump represents. Because they like all the bad shit that he wants to do. They like all the shit that he is truly Hitlerian over, okay? They agree with it. That's the problem. They don't have a problem with mass deportations, okay? Is this, do people like Mehdi Hassan know that billionaire donors are actually pulling the Democratic Party to the left? The average Democratic voter is considerably to the right than the average Democratic donor, whether small donor or large. I have no real opinion here, and it wouldn't mean anything anyway. But the people in the in-groups find me extremely annoying, and the feeling is mutual. But this is a dynamic that's seen in basically every party. It's good we're reckoning with them now, but it's not why Harris lost. And for what it's worth, the average billionaire Democratic donor is considerably to the left of the average Democratic voter, as well as when it comes to social issues. Wow, it's got a lot of traction. I have nothing to say beyond the fact that this has been studied quite extensively in each case. Top donors are less centrist. This is not an issue. Donors are generally more educated, engaged, and partisan. Even when looking at billionaires, you can easily see the stances of Dustin Moskowitz, Tom Steyer, etc. to see that the study's findings hold quite a bit of merit here, too. Yeah, dude, the top billionaire donors in the Democratic Party actually personally want Medicare for all. Yeah, that's what they're doing. They want to destroy billionaires. That's what they want to do. The top liberal donors are significantly more progressive is ultimately a fucking meaningless term at that point. Okay? It is straightforwardly a meaningless fucking term at that point. What are they progressive on? Are they progressive on things that actually the overwhelming majority of Americans would benefit from? Fuck no. Argument is the people want left economic populism, okay? And the Democratic Party doesn't actually offer that, okay? They said social, not economic, law. Exactly. For those curious, this is how it looks like in the research paper when you limit the top 1% donors only. The same findings hold. Yeah, the methodology of this is what's important. The top 1% of donors, how many are billionaire donors? The phrase you used in the original tweet that I think set everyone off. So the top 1% of donors is more multimillionaires than it is billionaires. However, when you take a look at Open Secrets and scroll through the top donor list, you can literally just compare Steyer, Moskowitz, etc. to the average Dem voter to see how it generalizes. Even those guys are, on the whole, far more partisan, more free trade and anti-tariff, and more committed to things like gun control and abortion than the average voter is. Cuban and Hoffman get blowback, but they're to the left of the average voter in line with Dem partisans. I don't think the study fairly captures the influence these donors have, how they exert it in the party, and how it relates to personal ideologies. But the idea that they are more committed to Dems' core issues than the marginal average voter makes sense. The problem is what the Dems are committed to in terms of their core issues. That is the problem here. The problem is the Democratic Party presents aesthetic progress by simply saying we are, pro-abortion. We are pro gay rights, trans rights, all this shit without actually ever really doing anything about it, but simply making that the pivotal part of their campaign strategy. Okay. And then in the first sign of resistance against that sort of thing with counter messaging coming from the right, they immediately buckle and fold. Okay. The real way to do this is not by hammering on silly aesthetic identity politics markers, okay? Like saying Latinx, which the Democrats aren't even fucking doing anyway, so it doesn't matter, okay? The real way to do this is by saying we have to fix people's material issues, okay? We have to uplift the American working class, regardless of their fucking background, okay? That's it. Bro can't even find the things Dems are pro anymore. Exactly. I can't, because they're not pro anything. The only thing they are is marginally less bad than the Republicans. That's it. They want to be a boring version, an annoying, boring, gay version of the Republican Party. Who the fuck wants to vote for that? So stupid. Yeah, we want to be Republicans, but soy. Okay, good job, dude. Yeah, that'll be a fucking captivating message. How are we going to show that? By basically running alongside Liz fucking Cheney with no active constituency in the fucking Republican Party anyway. Yeah, the only thing the Democratic Party is professional at is professionally losing. Okay? Weimar Germany, Noam Chomsky video is probably both short and also prescient. Hold on. Yeah. The New York Times' first article about Hitler's rise is absolutely stunning. Hold on. Let me find the Noam Chomsky clip. Here, U.S. Weimar Germany clip. 3 minutes, very fitting.
The world is thinking.
I'm not really thinking about the entertainment aspect of the media, though yes, it's significant. I'm thinking about the part that has substantive content, crazy content, but it is substantive. It does give answers. I mean, to people who for the last 30 years have seen their wages, income stagnate or decline, benefits decline, services decline, there is nothing for the children, the world's out of control. These are the people who on polls, maybe 80% of them, say the country's going in the wrong direction, the government's run by the few and the special interests, not the people, and so on. You know, they're not wrong. This is all happening to them, and the answers that they're getting from, say, Rush Limbaugh, Michael Savage, the rest of them are, well, we have an answer. The rich liberals own everything. They own the corporations. They run the government. They run the media. And they don't care about people like you. They don't care about the flyover people between the East Coast and the West Coast. They only care about giving everything you worked for away to illegal immigrants or gays or something. So we got to protect ourselves from them. And furthermore, they run the government. When they
Noam Chomsky was saying this in 2009, chat, just so you understand. Being a leftist is being right, but too early. Noam Chomsky has never stopped talking about this stuff, by the way, as well. He was talking about this in 2009.
put up a health program, it's not to give you health, it's to kill your granny. And that's an answer to something. It's a terrible answer, but it is an answer. And if you do suspend disbelief, you forget about what's happening in the world, really, it's a coherent answer. Now, they're not hearing anything else. And the memory that comes to my mind, again, I don't want to press the analogy too hard, but I think it's worth thinking about, is late Weimar Germany. There were people with real grievances. The Nazis gave them an answer. It's the fault of the Jews and the Bolsheviks, and we got to protect ourselves from them, and that'll take care of your grievances.
And now it's the fault of immigrants and gay people and trans people.
And we know what happened. Germany in the 1920s was
Palestinians.
The peak of Western civilization. In the arts and the sciences, highly democratic, functioning democratic institutions. A decade later, it was the pits of human history. Again, the analogy is not close, but it's frightening. And unless an answer can be given to these people, unless they can be led to understand what's really happening to them, we could be in for trouble.
Let's watch the second thought video on liberal collaborations with
This
Nazis.
episode is brought to you by Audible. Start the timer. I've got like 20 minutes tops to cover socialism, communism, corporatism, fascism.
Actually, no, this is too broad. I wanna dial in specifically on here. Let's look at the United States comparisons on how this.
In the United States, the middle class has played a central role since its very inception. America is often referred to as a nation of small businesses, and small business is a big part of American ideology, often standing in as a symbol of individual freedom and independence. Thomas Jefferson's ideal citizen was the self-sufficient and independent landowning farmer, an ideal that retained its appeal even as it soon became obsolete in the face of expanding markets. And during the Cold War, small business owners and their ideals in both urban and rural areas were used as a bulwark against the spread of communism. To this day, small businesses play a very significant role in America's self-understanding and are generally viewed very positively.
One day I want to own my own business, be my own boss. Probably nothing embodies the essence of the American dream more than that thought.
There's a lot of idealization and romanticism surrounding small business, both on the right and the left. Small businesses are seen as personal, relatable, and admirable. In a 2017 poll, 70% of Americans said they have a great deal or a lot of confidence in small businesses. And I get it. In our world, small businesses bring a lot of local color to many places, and allow for products and experiences that you couldn't get anywhere else. But we shouldn't let such romanticism blind us to the many problems that small businesses often come with, because they are still businesses in the end, and that means profit is their primary motive. In the United States, small businesses on average pay lower wages, provide worse benefits, are exempt from crucial labor protections, and due to their small size tend to make unionization difficult, which tends to leave small business employees with little to no bargaining power. In the US, federal law requires businesses to provide medical coverage after discharge only if they have 20 or more employees, and family and medical leave only if they have 50 or more employees, thus exempting many small businesses. And anti-discrimination laws, whether against race or gender, only apply if you employ 15 or more people, all of which often allows small business owners to be petty tyrants towards those they employ, and they will sometimes use their status as small business owners to justify overworking and underpaying people. Whether small or big, businesses compete in the same market, in which success requires ruthlessness. And to this day, the American petty bourgeoisie have a significant effect on the divisions between the political left and the right.
If you want to make America a better place for everyone, especially for minorities, forget social activism. Instead, start a business.
They not only provide opposition to labor-oriented reforms, they also have served as the mass base for today's right-wing populism, which, as we shall see, reveals several of the same class patterns that we saw in German fascism. Consider the Trump campaign and the MAGA movement. For the purposes of this video, I'm not going to discuss whether it is fascist or not, but it is today's leading form of right-wing populism in America. The media often describes MAGA as a movement of the white working class, and while its ranks do include many white workers, I think this label overlooks the movement's middle-class character. Data from primaries in 2016, for instance, show that much of Trump's support came from middle-income voters, whose average earnings were a lot higher than those of the average American. And while income should not be equated with class, it does serve as some preliminary indication. But as a way of zooming into the class dynamics at play, I'd like to focus on the January 6th Capitol riot, as it's a particularly extreme expression of the MAGA movement. And just as we'd expect, the petty bourgeoisie, namely small business owners and the self-employed, were overrepresented among the Capitol rioters. There was a floral shop owner, a CEO of a skydiving company, owner of a chiropractor practice, owner and president of a tax guidance company, owners of real estate companies, owner of a car dealership, self-employed insurance agent, CEO of a data analytics marketing firm, and I could go on and on. This social group was much more likely to be found among the Capitol rioters than among the general voting population, and were even more overrepresented among those Capitol rioters who were violent. Trust me, once you recognize this trend, you never stop noticing it. While blue-collar workers were present, white-collar workers were a lot more common, and were also likely to be relatively high-ranking managers, who some categorize as petty bourgeois as well, because
Yeah, so this is what I talked about a lot. This was an HVAC business owner riot, right? Like, that's what it was for the most part.
because of their increased status and the power they have over subordinate employees. So it's completely misleading to see this event as a representation of the white working class, let alone the general working class. After all, the rioters came from all over the United States, which means that these were people who were well off enough and had enough economic power to take time off work, pay for traveling expenses, whether by bus or plane, as well as a hotel to stay in, just to attend a Trump rally, which is already some indication of its class character. These were people who were drawn to the MAGA movement because they identified their individual freedom with the freedom of business, and saw all government efforts to help and assist the working class and the unemployed as obstructions to their personal success, explaining their common resentment towards welfare recipients, for instance.
Because owning your own business represents freedom. You are independent. You are free. And that's exactly the reason big government despises.
The American modern right-wing movement also is very good at universalizing their outwardly awful policies. They never say, we are here to defend big businesses. They say small businesses are the backbone of the American economy. We're here to support small businesses. When in fact, their policy agenda is greatly beneficial for big businesses. Okay? That's why when Republicans talk about tax cuts, they always talk about tax cuts for the middle class. We're going to do tax cuts for the middle class. We are going to help out the middle class. Deregulation is going to help out the middle class, small businesses. That is a lie. What their open goal, and as Trump demonstrated in his 2017 tax cuts, is to cut taxes for the wealthiest in American society and the corporations, because of the corporate tax rate. There's a reason why in the Trump tax cuts that came in the last Trump regime, the tax cuts made for the top earners in this country and the corporate tax rate were actually permanent, whereas tax cuts for the middle class and everything under the top marginal tax rate was actually slated to sunset. All of those tax cuts are supposed to sunset in 2026, I believe. Just so you understand, that's not what the video is saying. I don't care what the video is saying. I'm giving additional context to the way in which America propagandizes American politicians and American political movements oftentimes propagandize certain positions that are inherently harmful to the middle class, which is a very specific designation that is supposed to take you away from understanding the class dynamic from worker and capital owner to begin with, okay? But it's just something you need to understand. Both parties are also capitalists. Both parties also represent the interests of corporations. That's precisely the reason why the Democratic Party is directly at odds with its base of support.
Despises small business.
And yet, at the same time, as we saw with German fascism, this also comes with attacks on big capitalists, often represented by people like George Soros and Bill Gates, which often comes along with various conspiracy theories that don't stray far from anti-Semitism. Conspiracy theories about the collusion of left-wing protesters and labor unions with powerful elites like George Soros. That very same flavor of middle-class paranoia, a phenomenon that is difficult to make sense of if we don't recognize its petty bourgeois character. This also helps us understand America's right libertarians, who otherwise also seem hopelessly contradictory? Why is it that so many of them, who are supposed to be anti-government, end up moving towards fascism? Once again, the right libertarian movement is populated with a lot of petty bourgeois individuals who identify their freedom with unregulated business activity and attack the government for its obstruction of this freedom. And yet, whenever their business begins being threatened either by the demands of organized labor or simply by the ruthless tendencies of the market, they end up wishing for a strong government which would wield its iron fist in protecting their business against these threats. Recognizing it also helps us immensely in making sense of different responses to the COVID pandemic. Among the anti-lockdown protesters, the kind who equated social distancing with communism, the petty bourgeoisie were, you guessed it, overrepresented. In Minnesota, as one example,
the subtle line appealing to middle-class frustrations is the standard of living for what we think is middle class is only achievable for small business owners. Both parties never appeal to the working class, but only an amorphous, intangible middle class that hasn't existed for decades. Exactly. There is no real, like, straightforward worker. I guess there is to a certain degree. It's like the professional managerial class. Okay. There, to a certain degree, the professional managerial class, like, is a part of that equation. Like, we're talking about people with college degrees and whatnot. The Democratic Party captures the attention of that base. The Republican Party, on the other hand, captures the attention of the small business owners who actually receive what it looks like to be that mythical middle class. But ultimately, the notion of like of a group of individuals that like work in a fucking factory and have a house and have a comfortable, meaningful existence with a single income, like single income households with one person working as a wage laborer and being firmly in this like middle class standard is non-existent in this country.
Those pleading to reopen the state during the pandemic were overwhelmingly small business owners. Proprietors of hair salons, massage parlors, a bowling alley, vacation rental, etc., who put up slogans such as "small business is essential." And this makes sense as the lockdown was impeding the profitability of their businesses, in some cases to the point of bankruptcy. Also, in some cases, impeding their ability to spend their disposable income. Some protesters, for instance, expressed their dissatisfaction with the lockdown on account of not being able to get a haircut or not being able to go to a golf course, which is not a particularly working-class concern. The fact that the lockdown was indeed threatening many small businesses incentivized the spread of various conspiracy theories, again expressing that middle-class paranoia, claiming that the virus was man-made or that it did not exist at all and was simply a tactic to push America towards communism. The working class also had a strong response to the pandemic, which came with an increase in worker strikes, and their demands could not be more different from those of the petty bourgeoisie. The striking workers, who were very well aware of the dangers of the pandemic and were at high risk of infection, demanded not only improved working conditions, but improved safety measures, improved access to safety equipment, and increased precautions against the spread of COVID. Nothing could show more clearly just how important it is to differentiate.
And there are far more of these people, albeit their organizational capacity is infinitely more limited because they do not have the freedom that like a small business owner has. But there are far more of these people out there, working class people, wage laborers, than there are small business owners, okay?
Differentiate between the working class and the petty bourgeoisie if we want to understand the nature of different political movements and actions. This is not to say that some small business owners did not have legitimate concerns. The US government definitely did not act quickly and sufficiently enough to help those whose livelihoods were severely threatened by the lockdown. One legitimate concern was the fact that given America's privatized healthcare system, many small business owners depend on the profitability of their business in order to pay for health insurance for themselves and their family. The fight for universal healthcare is an example of an issue over which the workers and the lower middle class could potentially unite. Now, while we do see these very clear patterns in the relationship between class and politics, it is also true that today people vote according to their class a lot less than they did 100 years ago. Yeah. And many of today's political divisions are drawn along lines of race.
Are YouTubers small business owners? Yes, absolutely. Yes. Technically, myself included. It's an owned and operated business, so I still get paid for my labor and not for making others work for me. I don't own like a channel overall where like other people are working under me and working like there is no way that I can continue making money if I just stopped streaming. Okay? But yes, technically YouTubers, especially many other YouTubers that have like, you know, ginormous fucking businesses do this. Like they are firmly within the small business owner category.
Gender and culture. And that is something that was actively and purposefully achieved by the ruling class, which has always tried to produce internal splits within the working class and to bring workers over to its side using cultural issues, a tactic which in recent decades was especially pioneered by Republicans. And this is a problem because it points to a lack of class consciousness among workers, which leads them to lash out against fellow workers.
What do you mean, plenty of ways for you to make money if you don't stream? Yes, of course. But most of them, like, there are a million different ways that I can continue earning money off of the pre-existing the capital that I have. Capital accumulation is an avenue for me. Okay? Yes. But that would change the dynamic of the way I earn currently. That would turn me into a capitalist rather than someone who still has to work to earn his income. A lot of people misunderstand how this dynamic works, and they think, for example, athletes, very wealthy, right? They get these massive contracts, right? So they go, excuse me, athletes are bourgeoisie, okay? And many of them are, but not in the way that you think they are, okay? Athletes' massive contracts that they get from the sports franchises they work for is still very much wage labor, okay? A lot of them then take those contracts and turn around and start their own businesses in which they become capital owners, business owners, and therefore capitalists, okay? LeBron James's endorsements and also his wages that he gets from the Los Angeles Lakers puts him in a wage laborer category, okay? Whereas LeBron James's many investments into other businesses puts him in a capitalist category. That is how this works.
Workers, rather than those who actually exploit them. This is not to say that the Democrat Party is free from blame either, as it has been consistently disappointing the poor and working class for decades, and has been thereby leaving people feeling like there is no worthwhile alternative. The decline of class consciousness has been further intensified by what I would call the petty bourgeoisification of the working class, the attempt to disarm class struggle by making workers identify more with the petty bourgeoisie than their own class. This is seen when working class people see themselves as temporarily unsuccessful business people rather than workers, entrepreneurs on the grind rather than sellers of labor power. And this is exploited by various companies. Consider, for instance, Uber, which has utilized the slogan, "Be your own boss." Although Uber drivers are gig workers who are materially generating profit for Uber, Uber tries to convince them that they are in fact self-employed bosses. Thus, while offering them terrible working conditions, they sell them the promise of being petty bourgeois. And all of these problems are further confounded by a lack of genuinely working class organizations, ones that would build working class autonomy. And history shows us that few things are as effective in combating fascism as organized labor. And now I'd like to thank my patrons, who fund my petty bourgeois existence. 404 error, just undo it.
Is a good example landlords? Yes, landlords would be passive earning, like earners. Passive income means you do not have to go out and directly work to get a wage, okay? You do not have to go out and work to get a wage from someone else who is paying you. Passive versus active income.
London's dinner happened this weekend.
Anyway, this is Matt Christman talking about the rise of American fascism.
Just passed completely unremarked upon, but that wasn't the case because, you know, the comedian they booked, Michelle Wolf of The Daily Show, the headlines the last 48 hours, just nonstop debate about whether she was mean to Sarah Huckabee Sanders, whether it's okay to be mean to Sarah Huckabee Sanders, what is comedy, are comedians heroes, and should the whole White House Correspondents' Dinner be with Agent Orange?
You know, living in hell is a lot more boring than I thought it would be.
Yeah, it's just, this is a conversation that is designed to dominate everything on your social media and like in the news and the news media talking about itself and entertainment. And just like, I want to turn it all off. I don't care. I don't care about any of it. It's just like anyone taking just like a really hard stance on any of this is just, I just don't know what to make of it.
Well, the most insane thing is that as they say on Battlestar Galactica, all of this has happened before and all of this will happen again. Because this same fucking debate happened, people have pointed this out, the same thing happened 10 years ago with Colbert when he was at the Correspondents' Dinner, I believe 2006, and he roasted Bush to his face, and everyone was horrified, and there was a whole debate about, did he go too far? Is there such a thing as too far? What are comedians supposed to do? But real heads know that this actually also happened 20 years ago. Because in 1996, Don Imus was the...
Bro, the chatter who sent this to me is so fucking lame, dude. This has nothing to do with what we were talking about. You just wanted me to play a clip of Matt Christman, who I love, and the Chavo Boys. Like, some of you motherfuckers really abuse your linking privileges. I swear to fucking God. What does this have to do with, like, how liberals collaborate with fascists historically? Stop sending me the 3 Arrows video. I'm not going to watch a 30-minute video from a podcast, okay? I know it's great, but it is not good for... This is the guy. Matt Christman is relevant here, explaining the American dynamic of fascism, and nails it from 4450. He did not talk about American fascism at all in 4450. What did the chatter say? No, man, keep listening, I swear.
At the White House Correspondents' Dinner, and he did a bunch of jokes about how Bill Clinton was a horny freak, and that caused a giant wailing and gnashing of teeth. There was no Twitter, but if there had been, everyone would have lost their shit. It's the same fucking argument over and over, and nothing ever changes about it. It's enough to make you go and...
Oh, you guys are so hateful, it's wild. Why do you encourage so much hate in your chat? I feel like it doesn't accomplish as much as your usual empathy does. Brother, you have to also present enemies, ideological enemies, people that want to do harm to others, as exactly what they are. I will never lie to you. I will always tell you what my own personal convictions look like, what my own personal opinion is. Okay? And I will continue to do so in an unflinching manner. Do you understand? This is not an encouragement to hate. This is actually directly calling out who is spreading hate in American society. Okay? If one party is actively pushing to mass deport, if one party is looking to actively push mass deportation, fight fire with fire, I get it, I just don't agree. No, I'm not fighting fire with fire, you dumb fuck. What is wrong with you? God damn, you are the fucking white moderate that I'm talking about, that is so, that just like endlessly refuses to understand nuance in the situation. Listen to me, listen to my words. Do you think there's a difference between good things and bad things? Okay, if you do, then you have the capacity to understand that mass deportation is very bad, okay? That's my position. Maybe you disagree with it. We can have a conversation around that. And if you think mass deportation is objectively fascist, if mass deportation is objectively fascist, then obviously you can't, you have to openly recognize that this is American fascism that's dormant for many years and is very active now. Yeah, I'm being mean. I'm being mean to people who want to do harm to others. Like,
speaking on behalf of a hegemonic liberalism that is going to get us all fucking killed. It's
got a lot of money.
I agree. Don't talk to them, but because they're distraction from the real fucking problem, which is that fascism arises because of the collapse of institutional legitimacy of liberal institutions. And that's how we got fucking Trump. It's how we're going to get what's coming next after him. That's going to be even worse. Because if you think there's not going to be more ecological and economic catastrophes in the future that liberalism is wholly unsuited to fucking deal with, and that failure is not going to lead to fascism filling that fucking hole, you got another thing coming. And that's what these guys are. These guys who marched in Charlottesville, these are the people who are aware of the unspoken premise of this sort of zombie neoliberalism we're living in, which is that we're coming at a point where there's going to be ecological catastrophe, and it's going to either require mass redistribution of the ill-gotten gains of the first world or genocide. And these are the first people who have basically said, well, if that's the choice, I choose genocide. And they're getting everybody else ready intellectually and emotionally for why that's.
Chatter linked 44 as the minute marker. I went back to 7. There's a difference between the 7th minute where he's actually kind of talking about it. It was 20 seconds away. Sorry, I missed the timestamp.
It's going to be okay when it happens. Why? They're not really people. When we're putting all of this.
Hasanabi, dude, don't get me wrong, dude, but you are doing this to monetize this, dude. I mean, your shtick gets you bucks, dude. Please, dude. yes, dude, that's why I'm doing this. Except I could be doing that with a much greater amount of much greater amount of money that I could be making, and also simultaneously a shit ton less scrutiny if I were to do this for a grift. If I was a grifter, I wouldn't be grifting to the left, okay? Because dumb fucks like you do not have this kind of attitude or opinion towards the right. You think that they're honest brokers of the truth, okay? It is infinitely easier to grift to the right. Shut the fuck up. There is a reason why there aren't that many people like me who are both openly leftist and also very successful, okay? The American institutions and the American public is unimaginably hostile to any sort of progressive politics, okay? You can fucking sit here and chirp about like how much money I have all day, every day, and that is just simply a way for you to not understand the things that I'm talking about. Oh, I don't have to listen to him. I don't have to listen to him because he makes money, which I think is somehow at odds with the way he is presenting, with the way he's presenting the things that are harming me right now. He's trolling, dude. I know. But this kind of stupid attitude is definitely infinitely more popular in the broader public than you think, okay? It might not be a popular sentiment in this community, but that's it. Wow, you must be so poor grifting for the left. No, you dumb fuck. If I have the capacity to explain a concept that is impossible for Americans to fucking understand under normal circumstances, don't you think it is infinitely easier for me to actually shill right-wing sentiment, right-wing thought? Why are there no prominent examples of people actually having thriving careers after they fucking move to the left? Okay? Why are there infinitely more examples of people always hitting the fucking right-wing pipeline? Why? There's no way I can read these posts, dude. Okay, dude, take 5 minutes off and you know, come back later. This is simply a way for people to refuse to take in the message. And it's just a way for people to go, nah, I don't fucking agree. I don't agree with anything this guy's saying. Not because I'm going to internalize what he's saying and maybe put forth a convincing counter argument, but instead I'm going to literally just, force myself not to listen to anything he's saying and be uncharitable because I have perceived hypocrisy here. That this person and his existence is at odds with his worldview when there is no such contradiction there. Okay?
Money into more fucking walls and drones and bombs and guns to keep them away, and so that we can watch them die with clear consciences. It's going to be because we've been loaded with the ideology that these guys are now starting to express publicly. On the other side of them, you have people who are saying in full fucking voice, no, we have the resources to save everybody, to give everybody a fucking decent and worthwhile existence. And that is what we want. And that is the fucking real difference between these two. So you can tell that to the next asshole who tells you that they're actually two sides of the same coin.
And my question is now.
Anyway, we watched Why Middle Class Supports Fascism with Why Middle Class Supports Fascism with cuck philosophy. There's also the German Revolution, which I'm not going to get into too much. I think Best D Marks had a video on this as well, specifically on the way that like liberals have turned around and showed their bellies and actively collaborated with Nazis. There are a number of different documentary style videos on this process. Unfortunately, many of them are super long, and I want to just like arrive at, Social Democrats, for example, and the role that they played in actively suppressing the communist anti-fascist movement in Germany. That is what I'm looking at. Okay, that is what I'm looking for.
Ebert and Gustav Noske. Gustav Noske was a party functionary that had become a prominent deputy, an enemy of proletarian internationalism. He had declared at the Reichstag during World War II that socialists were not, quote, vagabonds without a fatherland. He had tried to convince the bourgeois parties to give the German workers good reasons to become soldiers and thus give their lives in the imperialist slaughter. Noske declared himself a supporter of Oswald Spengler's proto-fascist Prussian socialism. Hitler wrote about Noske in 1933, saying he is, quote, an oak among these social democratic plants. When the news of the Kiel uprising reached the imperial government, Prince Max sent a reliable social democrat to calm the revolutionary fervor, and that man was Gustav Noske. Aside from a few politically conscious workers, the majority of the revolting masses were still confused about the various currents and what differentiates them. Another consequence of not constituting the Communist Party at an earlier point. Yes, the majority Social Democrats had supported the war, but now they were seemingly on their side. Maybe they had acknowledged their mistakes. Many striking workers were not socialists, and they did not yet differentiate between the parties calling themselves socialist. Many of them did not believe, or rather did not want to believe, that the SPD leadership was determined to defend the old system. Hence, the councils were not exclusively made up of revolutionary socialists. For instance, German sociologist Max Weber was part of the Workers' Council of Heidelberg, and he was pleasantly surprised that most members there were moderate liberals. Nonetheless, people were radicalizing quickly, and that process had to be reversed. Noske, a cunning and talented politician, eventually managed to sway the people to his side. He was so successful in doing so that the crowds proclaimed him governor of Kiel. Noske promised to meet the most urgent demands of the workers and soldiers of Kiel, such as pardons of mutineers in return for a more calm atmosphere. The next day, Noske called Berlin, saying he, quote, had only one hope, a voluntary return to order under social democratic leadership. Then the rebellion would collapse. Noske slowly but surely restored authority of the former officers and the police, and Prince Max was full of admiration for what Noske had accomplished at Kiel. Quote, the man has done superhuman things. Prince Max later wrote in his memoirs, quote, the fate of Germany depended on Ebert repeating his party comrades' achievement on a large scale, that is, rolling back the movement throughout the country. Appeasement through minor concessions and false promises. This trick was to be successful in undermining countless working-class movements in the coming decades all over the world. At the time, very few anticipated the tragedy that was about to ensue. It is reasonable to assume that not even the ruling classes themselves were confident they could turn things around. In the 7 days after November the 3rd, revolution was a certainty for much of the working class. The German monarchy had collapsed, and there was no parliament with any claim to power. The only organs with any authority were the workers' and soldiers' councils, and the new government in power called itself socialist, so it is no surprise that many regarded the revolution as completed. Unfortunately, it wasn't. For a revolution to be completed, toppling the old order is not enough. Establishing a new one is the other, in many ways, even harder part. But the masses who had managed to take over city after city had no cohesive plan for what to do with that power. The revolution had been largely spontaneous. It had no centralized leadership, but the counter-revolution did. Now, the trick of Noske in Kiel had to be repeated in many other places, and most crucially in Berlin, where the revolutionary movement had arrived on November 9th. Time was running out. As the new chancellor of a non-existing government, Friedrich Ebert planned to, quote, steer the revolution into orderly channels and defend the rule of law from anarchy. But these maneuvers were not enough to defeat the Marxists, because the workers' and soldiers' councils were still the main authority throughout the German Reich. They had to be won over, and so it was crucial for the MSPD to build a coalition with the USPD to form an executive based on the councils. The independents themselves had not full control over the councils, and so it was in the interest of the USPD right wing to form unity with the MSPD. Hugo Hase was especially interested in social democratic unity because power was shifting quickly to the left wing of the independents, led by Georg Ledebour and the Spartakists. The two parties wanted...
This is an era where liberals, social democrats alike, basically looked for or took advantage of the destabilized Germany in an effort to secure as much power as possible and undermine the communist movement that was the most significant anti-fascist movement in Germany in the lead up to the Nazi rise of power. Okay? This is why I'm saying that what happened throughout history is happening once again, where in America, we don't even have fucking social democrats, really. We just have mostly liberals who are a more moderate version of the fascist movement in the United States of America. And history is repeating itself once again. Instead of actively undermining and trying to combat the growing fascist movement, liberals And the reason why we arrived at this conclusion is because we were talking about, what do you call it? We're talking about Mika and Joe Scarborough and Mika Brzezinski and many of these other institutions. What they have paid attention to and what they've been attacking and undermining since Donald Trump won the election matters. This is why I told you immediately after this election that no, that was part one. I don't think I reacted to part two completely. But my point is this, okay? They very quickly were like, it's actually woke and trans people and our inability to like address the right-wing demands that the American public has that the Democratic Party lost when the Democratic Party had not done those things at all. As a matter of fact, the Democratic Party had moderated itself so hard that they had become a marginally less bad version of the Republican Party, and they still fucking failed. And instead of licking their wounds and analyzing and doing a proper autopsy on what the real issues were, they immediately started shitting on progressives. They immediately started shitting on trans people. They immediately started shitting on leftists, people who, what? Hello, my fellow Hasanabi heads. Why do you support Hamas? I'm just kidding. I'm sorry. Okay, take a day off. This is why I actively talked about Bill Maher's sentiment yesterday. What Bill Maher was talking about was so ridiculous, because what Bill Maher was saying is no different than what Republicans have been saying. What you were hearing from MSNBC and CNN alike was no different than Fox News or even the likes of Ben Shapiro. The idea that like wokes and pronouns and Latinx is what caused the Democrats to lose this election. Okay? It was deeply unserious and completely ridiculous. Okay?
As the issues that moved them to send Donald Trump back to the White House with their vote. Joe and I realized it's time to do something different. And that starts with not only talking about Donald Trump, but also talking with him.
Yeah. Thank you for demonstrating the endless liberal attitude that if you can't beat him, you join him. Okay? That is the point. Nothing has aged worse than this thread. Hate to be that guy, but resistance liberalism is probably the most successful anti-fascist campaign in America since the 1940s. Yes, it doesn't follow the normal mold of also being a left-wing movement, but it is fundamentally an anti-fascist movement, this guy said on October 25th, 2024. It combines people from across the political spectrum, unifying them on a single goal, defeating fascism. Like, I genuinely don't know what else you can call a coalition that spans from AOC to Dick Cheney than an anti-fascist coalition. This is a fast-track way to be wrong. If you are just like ideologically rudderless, if you simply are repeating whatever the fuck the party is saying without ever having an opinion of your own, you will be lost in the fucking sauce. You will say things like Dick Cheney is an anti-fascist. Dick Cheney is a fucking fascist. Dick Cheney is a bigger fascist than Donald Trump. What the fuck are we talking about? At least Donald Trump last regime. Last regime, Donald Trump was a proto-fascist. Dick Cheney had always been a bigger fascist than Donald Trump's last regime. Anti-fascism at its core is a movement that is opposed to fascism. Resistance liberalism clearly falls well within that mold. It has an express goal to defeat fascism, i.e. Donald Trump. It does not have a consistent economic, social, or international policy regimen. Its only unifying policy is opposition to fascism. Resistance liberalism is an anti-fascist coalition. It just doesn't take the aesthetics of a normative anti-fascism. And because of that, it has been much more successful than it might have otherwise been. I know some people wanted a grand anti-fascist coalition that unifies the left, makes it popular, and cements social democracy and the general left permanently in American politics. Instead, we got a highly educated, highly suburbanized, largely upper middle class, white, wealthy white anti-fascist movement that has been incredibly electorally successful. Now, he was saying this on October 25th, 2024, in the lead up to this election. And what is so insane about this statement is that the anti-fascist movement that he was talking about was also playing along with their own version of mass deportation, just a lighter version of that. So how the fuck were they anti-fascist when they were just like marginally less bad than Donald Trump? Yes, this thread is a response to David Austin Walsh tweet that I thought was really quite dumb. I added more here, by the way. This is why I say, if you want to come across as more knowledgeable, okay, read a little bit and develop a materialist perspective, because historical materialism will usually land you on the right side of history and will allow you to make better assessments of what is to come. Okay? Liberalism is rudderless, and many Democrats simply are just at the whims, at the mercy of right-wing Republicans that at the very least ideologically want to move the country towards fascism. Liberals are completely unequipped to fight against this. And that is why you're seeing so many of them refuse to fight against this and instead capitulate to the same exact right-wing framing on the matter over and over and over again. On November 21st, 1922, the New York Times published its very first article about Adolf Hitler. It's an incredible read, especially its assertion that Hitler's anti-Semitism was not so violent or as genuine as it sounded. This attitude was apparently widespread among Germans at the time. Many of them saw Hitler's anti-Semitism as a ploy for votes among the German masses. Okay? But the really extraordinary part of the article is that the 3 paragraphs on anti-Semitism, Brown acknowledges Hitler's vicious anti-Semitism as the core of Hitler's appeal, and notes the terrified Jewish community was fleeing from him, but goes on to dismiss it as a play to satiate the rubes that he bolded himself. He's credibly credited with being accused by lofty, unselfish patriotism. He probably does not know himself just what he wants to accomplish. The keynote of this propaganda, in speaking and writing, is violent anti-Semitism. His followers are nicknamed the Hakenkreuzler. So violent are Hitler's fulminations against the Jews that a number of prominent Jewish citizens are reported to have sought safe asylums in the Bavarian highlands, easily reached by fast motor cars, whence they could hurry their women and children when forewarned of an anti-Semitic St. Bartholomew's might. Okay. But hey, place. No, place. Hey, what are you? How are you? No, about it, dude, my mom is having a party right now. But several reliable, well-informed sources confirmed the idea that Hitler's anti-Semitism was not so genuine or violent as it sounded, and that he was merely using anti-Semitic propaganda as bait to catch masses of followers and keep them aroused, enthusiastic, in line for the time when his organization is perfected and sufficiently powerful to be employed effectively for political purposes. A sophisticated politician credited Hitler with peculiar political cleverness for laying emphasis and overemphasis on anti-Semitism, saying, "You can't expect the masses to understand or appreciate your finer, real aims. You must feed the masses with cruder morsels and ideas like anti-Semitism. It would be politically all wrong to tell them the truth about where you are really leading them." Now, Brown's sources in all likelihood did tell him Hitler's anti-Semitism was for show. That was a popular opinion during Nazism's early days, but that speaks to how unprepared polite German society was for a movement as sincerely, radically violent as Hitler's to take power. One other thing, if violent anti-Semitism was such a winning issue for Hitler, what does that tell us about the state of public opinion in Bavaria in 1922? You can basically substitute anti-Semitism in this conversation with anti-immigrant sentiment, xenophobia, and white nativist anti-immigrant attitudes. Okay? It is a one-to-one comparison to what we are experiencing right now. The problem in this situation, the problem in this circumstance is that there is no growing revolutionary movement that is a counterbalance to fascism. Okay? There is no threat. There is no threat to fascism. Okay? It's just neoliberalism, which is looking for a way to basically create a managed version of the same, like a less volatile version of the same fucking violent desires that the right have. There is no anti-capitalist alternative. And when there is no anti-capitalist alternative that is reaching prominence, okay, the only kind of quote-unquote anti-capitalist sentiment, left-wing populist sentiment you hear is from the likes of Tucker Carlson, is from the likes of Josh Hawley or J.D. Vance. Okay? That's it. These are the prominent voices on the right that present themselves as left-wing economic populists. Meanwhile, it's bullshit. Their populist sentiment is a lie, okay? Meanwhile, the entirety of the liberal spectrum of politics in the United States of America is fighting amongst itself from a right-wing attitude as well. Yeah, the threat is China. Yeah, sure. No, it's not. Okay? No, it's not. China, as it stands currently, all things considered, as much as I am, as much as I work to dispel many of the falsehoods surrounding the way that Americans think China operates and China is, China has never really presented itself as a counterbalance. There is no like ideological socialist desire in China. China cares about China only, okay? Anyway, that's it. Some of China's immediate material desires correspond to developing certain underdeveloped parts of the world, okay? But that is simply done in a pragmatic way. That is not done for any sort of real ideological purpose. They do not care if the countries that they're developing are run as like fascist authoritarian administrations. They do not care about any of that stuff at all. They just want a new market that they can sell products to. That's it. Now, while it looks like the Chinese hegemonic superpower status that they're reaching at an alarming rate for Americans is seemingly at odds with like American imperialism, they have not really done anything to combat American imperialism whatsoever. There are one immediate example I will always use is the Maoist movement in the Philippines. Okay? The Maoist movement in the Philippines, which is a massive country in and of itself, is somewhat vibrant, okay? And they are at odds with the Chinese government. If China truly was interested in even disrupting American imperialism, they would, just like America has worked with nascent fascist movements, beef them up, offer them logistical support in an effort to destabilize countries that are moving towards social democracy or democratic socialism or communism, God forbid. China would utilize the Maoist movement in the Philippines. China has, on the other hand, worked actively against the Maoist movement in the Philippines. This is the reason why I say that China has no ideological goals or even any interest in genuinely disrupting American hegemony. There are plenty of opportunities for China to, if they were truly invested in like socialist revolution and the revolutionary potential of the third world, they could be doing something about it in a way that the USSR did. They are not. Historically, China has always just cared about China. They happen to be moving in the direction of socialism further along than many other nation states. That much is true. I do agree with that. But they're not necessarily ideologically invested in any sort of like global socialist, global communist movement at all. Anyway, they've always had a wild foreign policy, even under Mao. True. So no, they are not an ideological counterbalance at all, nor are they interested. The entire globe could be straightforwardly fascist as long as China remains the way it does and becomes a global superpower, which it has, and they can sell products to the global fascist movement in the Western world. They will continue to do so. Like they have historically always been, maybe not historically, but when in moments that matter, like the example that I use in the Philippines, China has not even used things to its advantage. They're too afraid of directly going into battle. I think they probably look at the USSR and its international movements, its interventionist policies as a failure to implement socialism in one state. That's it. Why are you insinuating that their foreign policy is bad? Their policy respecting other nations' domestic politics is far better than the U.S.? No, this is a separate conversation. They didn't even support the Maoist revolution in Nepal that helped end the monarchy. Bro, you're right side to the country. Yeah, my point is that they have a non-interventionist policy when it comes to international affairs. Okay? And to a certain degree, that has allowed China to develop itself. And it's so funny that motherfuckers in the chat, look at this, look. Now it's Hitler. They will invade Taiwan. This is part of the reason why they're not interventionist. Now, regardless of whether they're intervening or not, it has not stopped Americans from deluding themselves into believing that it hasn't stopped Americans from saying we have to encroach on any sort of Chinese sovereignty as we can to effectively stop yet another person that they are going to compare to Adolf Hitler. But do not compare American leadership to Adolf Hitler, even if they're actively pushing for concentration camps at the border and mass deportations. Do not compare, no matter what you do, compare America's allies to Adolf Hitler, like Benjamin Netanyahu, even though they are doing an ethnic cleansing campaign right now with American dollars. It's always America's enemies that are conveniently displayed as another. See, Putin is also Hitler. Trump is also Hitler. Putin is also Hitler. Netanyahu also bad. Oh, okay. Not Hitler, though. Hassan, we would love to recruit you to the Republican Party. We find it. You may find your spirit more suited for the other side. We can use a guy like you. Yeah, totally, man. People just don't understand that my distaste and anger and frustration for the Democratic Party comes from their closeness to the Republican Party and its agenda. Okay? Anyway, let's get back to, let's move away from theory or American, or the parallels between the rise of Nazi power, and let's get back to drama. Heated confrontation between Elon Musk and Trump advisor, Axios reports. At least these guys are still unimaginably incompetent. Did you see
the
this
problem
from
for Democrats?
Pod Save America? What are they saying?
Is that you have this explicitly conservative media ecosystem. And I'm not talking about Joe Rogan here or Logan Paul. I'm talking about Ben Shapiro and Candace Owens and, talk radio and cable news and things like that. And they exist to professionally shit on Democrats. And that's what they do all day, every day. And then you have a progressive media ecosystem with people like Chapo Trap House or Hassan Piker. And that progressive media ecosystem also exists to shit on Democrats. And so from both sides, the Democratic Party is just getting savaged and criticized.
This is untrue. I, unlike mainstream media, have openly defended the Democratic Party when they do good things, Chapo included. As a matter of fact, the example I will give you is perhaps the most important example: Joe Biden's Afghanistan withdrawal. The entire liberal media ecosystem shit on Joe Biden. On the other hand, me and Chapo Trap House defended Joe Biden for withdrawing American troop presence from Afghanistan. And we never strayed away from that. Because we have fucking principles.
Damn, this guy's good.